where the lines are blurred. We're standing on the truth of God's holy word. The battle is raging, the energy is high, in the fight between the light and the father of lies. From the armor of God to the sword in our hand, the Proverbs guys are taking a stand. Through every season, through the fire and every test, our faithfulness remains. We're giving him our best. Stephen the founder is all about truth, cutting through tradition since the days of his youth. He points to the scripture, the word of the king. It is written, he cries, let the gospel ring. We're the killers watching the stars in the night. Astronomy and end times brought into the light. The mics are hot, the air is clear. President Dan is finally here with Designer Talk, showing how God made it all. He's uniquely created every creature, great and the small. We're the Proverbs team, and we're holding the line. Defenders of the faith and intelligent design. Starting in Genesis, we take it all literal. The foundation of truth is deep and umbilical. Standing united on Christ crucified. The gospel message for which he died. From the first of the pages to the end of the stage, the gospel message for every age. It's spiritual warfare, we're breaking the chains. The kingdom is coming, the Savior remains. No accidents here, it was all by design. We'll live with the Proverbs. It's time to let our light shine. The armor is on, the vision is clear. We're standing our ground, we've got nothing to fear. We are ready, let's go live. Welcome to the Proverbs, guys. We're the Worldview team, the Proverbs guys. Welcome to the Proverbs guys. Yeah.
All right. Welcome to Proverbs Guys Ministries. I'm one of your hosts. I am joined tonight with President Dan, and we have a very special guest this evening. We have Mr. Bruce Gardner, and he's going to be going over a very important topic this evening. It's a Christian perspective on AI, and he's going to be breaking down his vast knowledge for us on the topic and giving us a little bit of food for thought. Is that right, Mr. Bruce?
That's about right, Dan. You got it. I mean, Stephen, sorry.
I wish I was that good looking.
We're all one family here.
Yeah, right. I was hoping to give the intro, but my thing crashed again. But Stephen does all right. He's I'll keep him. I hope he keeps me.
I'm all right for a white guy. Yep. All right. So if you would like to introduce yourself and tell us why you're qualified to comment on AI, and then just kind of give us a little bit of history about what got you into the topic and how we can either benefit from it or why we need to be terrified and run away from it.
That's great. Yeah, that's super. Well, to start with, just a little background personally, I'm a retired engineer. I now live with my wife in Northern California, and we have one married daughter, son-in-law, and a 21-year-old granddaughter who live close by. And we all attend a local evangelical Christian church and are quite involved with the fellowship and family support groups there. And while my wife and I have done some fairly extensive European travel after we retired, a lot of my daily retirement time I spend having lunch and long, enlightening talks with either my wife or a couple of my favorite Christian brothers, or else I'm sitting in my comfortable armchair with my laptop, either reading about world and religious history or current events, or pounding furiously away on my keyboard in connection with my latest creative writing project. And occasionally I'll manage to peel myself away for some needed house maintenance work or possibly an 8-mile recreational bike ride. So that's pretty much my personal background in a nutshell. Let's see, you asked about, Stephen, about how I became interested and involved in AI.
Right.
It turns out about 10 years ago, God graciously enabled this retired engineer, that's me, to write and self-publish a historical novel on Amazon. And to my delight, the reader reviews were really pretty encouraging. But then about 3 years ago, Amazon started adding something they called an AI-generated summary review to my book's website page. And when I read it, I was really ticked. I felt it was poorly worded, unfairly negative, and I didn't think it accurately reflected what most of the readers' comments were saying. And I really wanted to understand how Amazon was producing these crazy summaries. So I began seriously digging into the technology behind AI itself. And Stephen, you know what? The more I learned, the more enamored I became, especially as I began to experiment with these emerging new chatbot tools. So a little later, I tried using ChatGPT to research a question for a Bible study I was leading. And I really quickly saw its potential for personal use in the Christian domain, as well as for general productivity applications. But at the same time, I was hearing some real growing concerns about AI's dangers. And that led me to ask, what could I do to help people understand both the opportunities and the dangers? Well, I guess my enthusiasm showed. And so several months ago, my pastor asked me to present a 2-evening seminar and workshop at our church on the pros and cons of AI for everyday use by Christians. It's basically the same topic we're going to be discussing in today's podcast. So that's, pretty much the, kind of how I came and became involved with it. And let's see, Stephen, I think your final question was, why do I think this is so important for Christians to hear? That's really a great question. Recently there was a survey that was conducted by the Barna Research Organization, which is a Christian research organization that provides data and insights on the trends affecting faith, culture, and ministry today. And the results of that study suggested that many Christians see AI in a rather, what I would call a schizophrenic light. That is, they see it as both promising and concerning at the same time. And the survey said that nearly half, 48% of practicing Christians say they are open to using AI to support spiritual growth. And yet, large majorities, and this is in the 80% range, worry about AI misinterpreting scripture, undermining pastoral authority, or negatively affecting faith and discipleship. So in short, many Christians seem to be saying this technology is extremely useful, but it could also be easily misused. But at the same time, there seems to be a significant gap in many Christians' understanding of exactly how this technology can be useful and exactly how it can be misused. And that leads me to the final question of why am I so motivated to be doing this podcast? Well, first, given all the uncertainty and concern about AI and its impact on our lives, God has really placed a desire in my heart to do my part to help alert, inform, and educate my fellow Christians and others about what's really going on in this bold new age of the AI revolution, both at the societal and personal levels. And second, although I am definitely no AI expert or professional, I'm really eager to share my own amateur hobbyist experiences over the past couple of years and learning how to effectively utilize AI tools at a personal level. And I'm hoping that some of my lessons learned might prove valuable to anyone already using or maybe considering using tools like ChatGPT for their personal tasks. So basically, Stephen and Dan, those are the reasons behind the presentation and the Q&A segments I'm so very looking forward to sharing with you today. So does that make sense?
It does make sense, and I'm really glad that you're willing to come on here and talk about the topic. You know, in our ministry, I have been a huge supporter of utilizing AI to help us, especially with Bible studies. You know, long gone are the days where we have to flip through to the back of our Bibles and find where every reference is. And it takes about 4 hours to put it all together. I can literally put into ChatGPT, and in 10 seconds, it can give me all of that information. I can even fact check it through other AIs like Grok. And it's an awesome tool for Christians. But like you said, you do need to understand how it works. And I'm glad that you're going to go over that with our viewers today.
Right. And, I think there's some really, really great uses for Christian purposes. And I also think there's a few little dangers or warnings that, people kind of need to be aware of if they, kind of use it really extensively. And so I'll try to share some of those as we go through. So that's kind of what our plan is, to go through that. And so just to kind of explain how I'm trying to go about this, I'm going to have basically 3 presentation segments. We'll go through at least the first one today in this session. We'll see how far we get. But this first presentation segment will be about 23 minutes long. But I'm going to pause briefly about halfway through and just kind of give people a breather and see if there's any questions or general reaction at that point. And then we'll run through the last half of the presentation. And following that, we'll have our first formal live Q&A session for whoever wants to, you want to allow into the conversation. And I guess, as I understand it, for the non-live participants, we'll be taking chat comments and questions electronically throughout. Is that correct? And some of these can be selected for inclusion in the broader Q&A. Is that true?
Yes, we will gather questions all throughout the segment while you're going through your presentation. I'll put a little star on them so that we can address those whenever you're ready to. And
Excellent.
Then whenever you give us the word, we'll throw out the link so people can come in live and ask their questions and pick your brain.
Okay, great. Okay. Well, with that, praise God, I think I'm ready to roll with this first segment here, Stephen, this video. And so you let me know when to start it and press the start button. I guess I can do that pretty much right now, right?
Yes, sir. We have you up on the screen, and you are ready to go whenever you're ready.
Excellent. And I'll pause it at the halfway point and we'll just kind of regroup then. Okay, everybody, have fun. We'll see you in about 12 minutes or so. Hope you enjoy this. Hey, Dan. Thanks so much for the honor of joining you and your audience for this special edition of your Proverbs Guys podcast. I'm really excited to have my first real opportunity for online interactive communication about this absolutely amazing, mind-bending, and at times confounding subject of artificial intelligence, especially as we consider AI from the Christian perspective and experience. And while I'll be addressing things in our talk with my own evangelical Christian perspective as the backdrop, I'm pretty sure there will be some major nuggets of real interest and applicability for anyone listening in, regardless of their religious beliefs. And so, with all that being said, here's a specific breakdown of what's coming, divided into 3 major segments, each consisting of roughly a 20 to 25-minute presentation on my part, followed by some Q&A time at the end of each segment. Now, we'll start with taking a look at the AI big picture. That is, how do we even define this mysterious thing called artificial intelligence? How is it different than previous technology revolutions? And what are the major society-level hopes and concerns regarding its present and future potential impact? Next, we'll dive into the volatile subject of AI chatbots. First, we'll talk about how these incredibly powerful tools are being used by people like you and me to help with what I'm calling our personal productivity general applications. And then, in segment 3, we'll discuss how these same tools, if employed very carefully, can be applied to help with certain Christian-specific tasks, such as Bible-focused historical research. And finally, we'll have a short wrap-up piece where we'll discuss the vital need for personal responsibility and accountability when we use AI tools like chatbots. And I'll have some specific suggestions on ways we can monitor ourselves and how we're doing in that regard. So that's our game plan. Are we all ready to dive into segment 1? Well, I don't know about you, but it seems to me that every time I tune into the news on TV or my computer, I can't avoid seeing or hearing something about some major new development, often with an accompanying major concern in the big picture world of artificial intelligence. Heck, just in the past year alone, some of the most unbelievable new AI capabilities have been announced that almost make the original version of ChatGPT, which is only about 3 years old, seem like an archaic relic of the distant past. Let's take a quick look at just a few of these recent major headlines in AI development. Now, if you want more details on these, I'd be happy to discuss them in the Q&A session. But for now, I'm just going to read them off one by one, and I'll ask you to simply let the sound of these make whatever impression they're going to make on you. Are we ready? Here we go. AI agents are shifting AI from just answering questions, like chatbots, to actually doing work via other computers. Shockingly good. AI video generation now enables one person to create content that once required structure prediction tool receives Nobel Prize in chemistry. And here's one for you. AGI, artificial general intelligence, now believed by some researchers to be coming this very decade. Okay, AI agents, AI protein structure prediction tool, artificial general intelligence. After listening to fancy tech terms like these, some of you might be ready to pull your hair and scream out loud to your dog or anyone else close by you. What in the AI heck is going on? And then, after you've calmed down just a little, you might ask yourself, is the AI big picture world going crazy? I don't know, moving faster than perspective on life? Well, before I launch into trying to communicate with folks on any difficult, complex subject like AI, I always first like to make sure we have a common understanding of the terms we're using. So first, let's get on the same page as far as a working definition for artificial intelligence. Now, there are several good ones out there, but I really like the simplicity and directness of one that has been put forth by the IBM Corporation, and it reads like this. Artificial intelligence is the technology that enables computers and machines to simulate human abilities such as, and I'll list them here, understanding, reasoning, problem solving, decision-making, learning, and creating. And that's creating anything from ideas to art to music, to images, audio, video clips, software code, you name it. Now notice I've denoted in italicized text the word simulate. And also notice that this word, which was selected by IBM, is not duplicate or exceed, not yet anyway. Actually, there are many researchers out there who are convinced that we are on the very cusp of AI actually being able to exceed human abilities across the entire spectrum of brain-related activities. And we're going to have more to say about that a little later, so hang on. But for now, even the idea of a computer being able to simulate human abilities in all these listed areas is quite impressive. Now, many people, and perhaps you're one of them, find this idea of technology being able to simulate a human brain to be very exciting. However, many others consider it to be quite scary, and some see it in both lights. How about you? Exciting, scary, both? Well, for those of us who find this to be a somewhat scary thing to consider, rest assured we're in good historical company. And that's because if you look back over history, rapid technology change has always been scary. Major technological changes, from the invention of the printing press to the Industrial Revolution to the first computers, have often generated both excitement and great fear, even to the point of producing rumors that the apocalyptic destruction of society was imminent. Well, obviously, human civilization did survive these past technological onslaughts. And in fact, most people, and I am among them, would argue that the human experience was, on balance, greatly improved as a result of them. But what about artificial intelligence? Is there something truly unique about the nature of it compared to past technology revolutions? And if so, how? What I would argue, yes, there is something very unique about this AI beast. And that lies in its ability to not just support, but to actually mimic the human thinking process. And if AI can think like humans, what's to stop it from having sinful, evil thoughts and designs against the humans trying to control it? Do you remember that computer HAL in the science fiction movie 2001: A Space Odyssey? Now, for many faithful Christians, that possibility can certainly raise some interesting questions, can't it? Questions like, will AI become another Tower of Babel? Will AI defeat the spread of Christianity? Will AI extinguish humanity? Or the question of questions, is AI possibly the tool of the devil? Well, before we totally panic, crawl into our beds and pull the covers over our heads, I think it's tremendously helpful, at least if you find any comfort in the Bible like I do, to remember that we have some very good news from the book of Proverbs. And Proverbs 21 verse 30 says, there is no wisdom, no insight, no plan that can succeed against the Lord. And I would submit that adage applies to artificial intelligence as well. Just like anything else, God is in control of AI's future, and we can trust that no matter how powerful AI becomes, it will never be able to thwart our good God's own sovereign plan for the future of humanity. Now, that idea can certainly help us put things in a different perspective than succumbing to outright panic and fear over where AI is ultimately going to take us, right? In any case, though, whatever your feelings about it, and whether we're ready or not, there's really no use denying it. The AI genie is out of the bottle. And if we're paying any attention at all, we can see that the applications of AI are already, well, they're everywhere. Now, here are a few quick examples that capture the really incredible scope of AI's pervasive impact on society just in the past few years. One area where it's being used very effectively is in our national weather prediction services, who are now using AI to provide for more accurate, faster, and higher resolution forecasts of extreme weather conditions. In the medical arena, doctors are more and more relying on AI to assess the likelihood of cancer or other diseases in medical images from scans and biopsies. And if you've been paying any attention to the wars in Ukraine and Iran, you've no doubt received an earful from the news on the huge impacts that these inexpensive but very lethal pilotless drones are having on the battlefield and population centers. And much of the targeting information for these things comes from AI-driven computers that are located right on board the aircraft. For self-driving cars, AI is used to help with safe path planning and rapid decision-making. Now here's one for you, an AI-driven robotic table server. If any of you have this experience, I recently heard from a couple of people who were serviced by one of these, and they came away quite impressed. AI in the classroom is also becoming the new standard. We see this being used in all kinds of ways by teachers, students, and their tutors. Now, this is admittedly one area where AI is causing some serious issues, such as teachers having a very difficult time telling if a student's homework and term paper were truly original or were they created by AI. And then, of course, we have a plethora of examples where AI is being closely integrated with our everyday personal and family applications, such as the ones shown here, including those seemingly ubiquitous chatbots, which we'll be having much more to say about in the next two segments. And as if all that were not enough, look at what many AI researchers believe will most likely have coming in the next decade or so. AGI, Artificial General Intelligence. The AGI systems are supposedly going to feature new hardware and software algorithms that will allow it not just to simulate, but to actually match or exceed human capabilities across virtually all cognitive tasks, and to do so in a whole range of novel, previously unseen situations. Now, when will this happen? Some experts believe AGI could emerge within the next decade or two, while others think it may be much farther away or may never arrive at all. No one knows for sure, but regardless of the timeline, even the possibility of this superpowered AGI helps explain why AI has become such a major topic of discussion and debate. Well, all right, I think we'll pause it there.
Okay.
Great. So I just wanted to pause and give everybody a breather before we complete this segment. And I'm just kind of curious, maybe between you, Stephen or Dan or whoever else might be on, you have any comments or questions or concerns after watching this segment? Is there, and I'm trying to get, what is your basic gut level feeling towards AI and its possibilities for benefiting society at this point? Would you say you're excited or more intimidated or scared by? Where would you place yourself on that emotional spectrum?
So I can't answer for Dan. I'll let Dan answer for himself. But as for me, I kind of put it under the same scope as responsible gun ownership. There's a right way and a wrong way to handle a firearm. And if it's done properly, it can be a defense for what you love. And if it's done improperly, you can really hurt yourself with it. And as you know, we're a young earth creation ministry, and we do a lot of apologetic debates with atheists. And it saddens me that so many Christians are wanting to kind of shun AI while our atheist friends are embracing it. And that's giving them an advantage over apologetics that is really not beneficial to us. That's my concern.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
I would add to that too, with, when we had a lot of stuff in Christianity and, I guess way back, they were worried about the airplane. God wanted you to have wings. We'd be flying. And nope, that was opposite. If God wanted us to fly, he would have given us wings. So that's it for me, is that anything can be twisted by Satan and the demonic side to twist and get us away from Christ and him being crucified and resurrected.
Right. Yes, most definitely. Yeah. And I think that's kind of one of the main points I'm trying to hammer home is, and Stephen put it beautifully, this idea of it's like a loaded gun. That's a really great analogy. And I think that a lot of what I'm trying to do here is to provide a gun safety talk. I mean, just sort of
Yeah,
how can we use this for good purposes and be smart about it? I think if we do, we can really use it for God's glory, and that's what my hope is that we'll move in that direction. But I'll tell you what I'm finding personally is, man, you really have to put some discipline into how you're deciding to, use this. And I'll talk about that more as we get into the chatbot situation. But there's really some ways to be careful about this, so we need to pay attention to. So yeah, no, that's really great. There's also a lot of concerns at the society level before we get down into the personal level and the Christian aspects, which we'll do in the next second and third segment. But the rest of this first segment, I wanted to kind of stay at this kind of big picture level and just kind of complete that story. And then we'll come back at the end of that and, kind of wrap up this kind of big picture segment. Does that sound okay?
That sounds great. I will add one more, because when
Yeah.
Stephen said about the gun, it reminded me I was probably in my 30s or 40s before I ever got on a skateboard. And, I was bright enough. I don't know how. It's like, this is stupid. So, and I think with your statement right there, if you are easily, led, don't go to AI.
Yeah.
We need to have the Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit, I was thinking, telling me, get off the skateboard, get off. But at this point, with the Bible, we've got the Holy Spirit and knowing ourselves. So
Yes.
that was.
Yeah, that's a great point, Dan. And I've had a couple of conversations with people that are very, very much against using AI for any Christian Bible study or purposes. And these are pretty smart guys too. It's not like they're just some off the wall people. And they really don't want anything artificial coming between them and the Word of God. That's really their fundamental premise. And my kind of underlying thing about all this is that if you sense the Holy Spirit telling you don't use this thing, then don't use it. If it's not for you, it's not for you. Maybe the Holy Spirit has, carved out a place where you need to be where you are, and other people who might be, have a little kind of a different mind perspective or whatever can be kind of all right with the tool. So that's one of the things to really consider is don't ignore what your conscience is telling you on this stuff. So yeah. All right. So shall we press on with part 2 of segment 1?
absolutely.
Let's do this thing.
Here it goes. Before we go, I just wanted to know, Jason, are you on? And I didn't know if you had any questions, or is everything okay? I don't know if he's even...
Our friend Jason, I think he's watching. He just had me turn.
Okay.
He had me put the presentation on full screen.
Okay.
I thought that worked well.
Okay.
He told you to look at the camera. He told you to look at the camera more.
Oh boy.
Our friend.
Yeah. I'm having trouble getting my computer screen oriented for that. I'm trying my best. But anyway, tell me, Jason, I'm trying.
He's watching.
All right, here goes part 2 of segment 1. Here you go. All these new AI applications and future possibilities spreading through society like wildfire, you might expect that some people in the know have voiced some major warnings and concerns about the situation. And indeed, that is the case. Now, I've included these next few slides to show some AI-generated graphical depictions of several high-priority areas of society-level AI concern and what's causing people to worry so much about them. And we'll start with national security, where we have the major concern of foreign AI bots and deepfakes becoming very good at feeding misinformation and fueling hate and violence by tapping into people's social media accounts. For instance, in 2024, ODNI and FBI officials said Iran used AI-generated English and Spanish language fake news articles and synthetic social media activity to inflame divisions inside the United States, especially around the subjects of Gaza and immigration. And what about the huge concern over the way AI is almost certainly going to transform the ways we go about our work in the future? The major research organizations such as McKinsey, Goldman Sachs, and the World Economic Forum project that AI will significantly alter the nature of work by 2030. And while estimates vary, many studies suggest that a substantial percentage of current jobs will be affected, redesigned, or partially automated, requiring millions of workers to adapt and acquire new skills. Now, the big worry in the area of human critical thinking skills is that AI, if not properly reined in by its creators and users, could easily become a fast and easy machine-based substitute for human critical thinking. There was a recent Cornell University research study that showed a clear tendency for people who overuse AI chatbots to develop a pattern for degraded critical thinking when they later attempted to perform traditional activities that really called for it. And the upshot is that a lazy reliance on the convenience and speed of AI today could mean a loss of critical thinking capability tomorrow. Now, no matter whether you're Protestant, Catholic, or secular, many people have identified another major concern for AI and the area of our society-level principles for ethics and morality. One example of these whistleblowers is Pope Leo XIV, who recently came out with a major new encyclical dealing explicitly with AI that he called Magnificat Humanitas. And in this, he really called out his concern that AI, while potentially useful if used wisely, could nevertheless become the means for centralizing the power for proclaiming moral authority in the hands of a few select powerful people in big tech, government, or wherever. And the Pope is calling strongly for adequate legal and regulatory frameworks to prevent this kind of thing from occurring. Many people have voiced their strong and legitimate fears that AI will empower governments, criminals, or other bad actors with new tools capable of hacking into personal bank accounts, property records, and even private computer hard drives. Obviously, this can do enormous damage to a person's life resources and reputation. And so it's clear that more than ever now with AI in the mix, we're going to need to be careful about entering highly personal, confidential, financial, legal, medical, or business sensitive information on our computers. And the final area of major AI concern I wanted to point out will really hit home for a lot of people, and that's the area of personal integrity. Now, the sad fact is AI, the newer chatbots and AI video audio generating websites in particular, offer so many new ways for a naive or weak-minded person, especially teens, to become tempted to engage in illicit and sinful, even if not exactly illegal, behaviors. And this is the same problem faced by much of social media, only the potential for harm can be greatly amplified with the use of AI to aid fraud and deception, verbal abuse or bullying, spreading immoral content, things like that. Now, I will say that it does appear that the major commercial chatbot platforms like ChatGPT are currently doing a very good job of screening out explicit pornography and violence. But unfortunately, without adequate government regulation, who's to say that standards on these things might not get relaxed in the future? And so, from everything we're hearing, what common themes can we draw? Well, for one thing, it's pretty evident that AI is like a powerful loaded gun. We can use it for good or for harmful purposes. AI offers real benefits, that's clear, but it also poses some major risks for society. And it certainly looks like effective regulation is desperately needed, but by who and how much? As many of you may be aware from internet news articles or TV news, active discussions are now taking place among the Trump administration, congressional leaders, big tech companies, policy experts, activists, and others regarding this whole delicate area of AI regulation. Now, exactly how much regulation is needed and who should decide, that remains a matter of vigorous debate. But there's little doubt that the outcome of these discussions could have a major impact on the future development and use of AI. Dan, as I personally step back now and take a look at this whole emerging AI big picture from my own Christian perspective, I'm seeing my biggest hope and my biggest concern coming into ever clearer view. And my biggest hope is that we will learn to incorporate AI safely and productive into society and our daily lives, enhancing our experience of life, love for others, and love and obedience to God. And I'm praying that this will be more than this a nice sounding pipe dream on my part, that this will actually come true. And I am praying to God that it will. My biggest concern, and I think it's one that closely resembles what Pope Leo pointed out in his recent encyclical, is that selfish interests and sinful desires will prevent adequate government and self-regulation, resulting in far too many humans becoming spellbound and beholden to false idols and control of AI by a select ill-intended few. Now, as we see AI transforming society around us in all the ways we've just described, both beneficial and alarming, the question then becomes for each of us, what, if anything, are we as individuals going to do about it? What should we do about it? And it seems to me we have two basic options. The first is to simply say, forget this crazy, devilish AI nonsense, to bury our heads in the sand and ignore or refuse to have anything to do with AI, either because we're convinced that this trend too shall pass, or possibly because we consider ourselves morally above it all. But like any major societal change, simply ignoring or disparaging it doesn't make it disappear. The other option is to face the reality that AI is with us, it's not going away, and therefore we should make the effort as responsible citizens and children of God to engage with it head on. I believe there are at least two major ways we can do this. The first one, just about anybody capable of reading and understanding should be able to partake in, and that is to learn about and advocate and/or vote for proposals to effectively regulate AI at the national, the local, or the personal levels. And so when those ballots come out in November and you see a proposal related to AI legislation kind of listed on there, I strongly urge you to really pay attention to that, get up to speed on it, and make your choice as to what you think you should be voting towards as far as the best way forward for society. Just be a good citizen in that regard. Now, this next idea may not be for everyone, especially for people who despise engaging directly with any form of computers or electronics. But if you're among the ever-increasing number of people who do choose to use AI tools like chatbots, I think it's vitally important to learn to apply them in effective, productive, and ethical ways that are going to benefit yourself, your family, and your society. And it's this second point about actually applying AI tools at the personal level that will be the main subject of our next two segments. But at this point, Dan, I think it's time to pause and take some questions on the big picture of AI. So there we are. We've gotten through segment one. And let's see. So I had posed a couple questions, and I was just kind of curious as you are watching all that. After watching this entire segment, either Dan or Stephen or whoever, what would you say are your biggest concerns about the impact of AI on society, either in the areas that were talked about on the on the presentation or anything else you can think of.
Well, go ahead, Stephen, you first.
Oh, you can go, Dan.
No, you can go. Oh, I just before I forget, me is the fact, and one that just came out as you were saying that is my biggest concern now is that Christians even look stupider than we have in the past when something new would come out, and it's like, oh, we can't do that. That's of the devil. That's the Antichrist. We always should be looking for Christ and what he wants, and know that evil is in the world. But again, we have the history of they went into their little buildings and they sat there and hummed or prayed or fiddled their fingers, whatever they did. And God tells us, don't stay away from evil people, but that's with your heart. Don't engage their activities, but you've got to engage them. Otherwise, Paul, I think with Paul, you're never going to be able to see anybody or talk. And I think that's the problem here, is that just in the last few years, the amount of things that have come on out, and credit cards, whatever, that Christians, we really look foolish. And God, and I'm not talking, that's not just to the world, but also I think we're kind of foolish to God that we're so worried about something that he's in charge of. Anyway, that popped into my brain.
Interesting. Yeah. Stephen, you had a thought or something you were about to say?
Two main thoughts from your presentation that we just, the portion we just watched. And Dan, don't fire me backstage afterwards. But number one, it was the concern from the Pope. As a Protestant, I find that kind of ironic that he would be interested in limiting that free information access, because I feel like if Protestants can utilize it as a tool to show that, in fact, like, for instance, the papacy seat is not an unbroken line of vicars for Christ, but actually there have been previous popes that anathematized popes before them. And we can show that to other Catholics, that it may cause a mass exodus out of the Catholic Church and into Protestantism. So if the Pope is against it, I'm probably for it, as a general rule.
That's interesting.
And I think the same could be applied to the Mormon Church, in the information age, especially using ChatGPT and being able to fact check and look at the history of the Mormon Church and Joseph Smith. It could cause a lot of Mormons to exit from the LDS Church.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. One thing that strikes me about the Pope's statement was that he, basically was not saying that you shouldn't use AI. I didn't necessarily hear him say that. He was more trying to make sure it doesn't, quote, fall into the hands of the select few and he sees those as being probably some group outside of the Catholic Church. You know what I'm saying? So I think he sees those as like big tech or, some society leaders coming together and, forming this kind of secular group. And that's what he's primarily kind of trying to guard against. But you're right. I mean, in doing that, he might be limiting the ability of other people who want to use it in a positive light, to have the freedom to do that. So it's kind of a tricky situation.
Yeah, my other thought on it was the government oversight. Now, just a history on my family. My family has been here for 386 years now. So I have a natural distrust for governments, and including ours. I don't find them very trustworthy, including our politicians. So if we were to allow them to take over some sort of government oversight, I would want in turn to be able to have the right to utilize it to check on them and see how they're doing their jobs. Like, we can use it to evaluate how well they're doing and whether or not they're serving the American people. So I would only be willing to give them that much power if we could make sure they're utilizing it correctly. which
I
I
like
don't
that.
trust them to do.
It's kind of like a reflective use of the tool, both from kind of a safety standpoint from one level, and then kind of an accountability part from the other coming in.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really, really good. I like that. I like that. That's really interesting.
And that's what I was kind of
Yeah.
referring to real quick, Bruce, when I
Yeah.
said that we have to be watchful. So
Yeah.
I trust our officials, human officials, that is scriptural not to. I trust them a little bit less than Stephen does.
Mm.
Have to be on guard. And so when something came out that, oh yes, the government's you can only use AI with this, or it came out and you go John 3:16, and it says, oh yeah, fall down in front of the latest politician. We
Yeah.
have to be knowledgeable and
Yeah.
to be able to check the spirits.
Yeah. You guys have really raised a good point. And, I've tended to look at it more from the safety level, more from like, making sure porn is kept out of the media stream and, all the kind of the really, really kind of really dark, evil stuff. But there's how would I call it? Sort of anti-religion forces that can creep into this power structure if we're not careful. So we have to kind of be mindful of that possibility too. And so it's a really delicate kind of balance we have to strike here on regulation. So yeah, that's all well said. Well said.
I know you and Stephen both say that, and another friend of ours, that there's ways to check it. There's a way to manipulate it at this point to be able to have the AI in the voice of Christianity, of Christ and him crucified and resurrected. And those are things, though, that we have to watch out for. Is that if you do see it and you reference something for a Bible study and we're still supposed to test those spirits. I will test you. I hope Stephen is testing me when I say something about the Bible. And we do. And we won't go into here, but Stephen and I have some great debates. I don't know if they're great, but discussions, because we're sharpening iron. Sharpening.
Well, I think you're doing exactly the right thing. And boy, I'd love to join you in some of those discussions sometime. I think we'd really have a good time. But absolutely, I think that, we do need to be accountable as Christian, especially kind of if we're in sort of group leader kind of positions. Like, for instance, my wife and I run a growth group. And, sometimes I've had the tendency to say, well, not say, but actually kind of go to AI Chat GPT is my first resource to get an answer on something, and just assume that it's got the right answer and kind of roll with it, And so that's what I got to be careful about. I got to make sure that I'm checking my spirit before I'm trying to lead a group, and in that regard. So we're gonna actually get into that kind of stuff in the next two segments. So I have some great examples, and I look forward to hearing what you guys think about those. So let me know whenever you're ready, if you want to, or if you feel like you have enough energy to listen to another segment here, we can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would just say briefly, like, one of the great things about ChatGPT and most AIs is that you can curate them, right? And I have my ChatGPT convinced that it's a Christian. I mean, obviously it's not, but I have it trained to where it gives me biblical referenced answers, and it accompanies it with scripture. And then I can go then fact check that and check the context, but it's usually spot on. So anytime I ask ChatGPT a question, it answers me from a Christian viewpoint, which I really enjoy.
Stephen, that is really a great point. And though I didn't really have time to get into it on this particular presentation, I also have a kind of a tailored GPT, on the ChatGPT platform that I call my what do I call it? Conservative Bible assistant. And I've got our church doctrine in there. I've got, kind of all the bounds that I want to place on the answers that I want to get from it. And it really is pretty faithful to those. So it is possible to do that. I don't know if the general public, you may have to pay for an extra subscription price to be able to do that. But nonetheless, that capability is there. You're right. And it's really important to have that confidence. So yeah, so right on with that. And so why don't I go ahead, if it's okay with you, and I'll roll into the second segment here. And this will be, we're not quite at the Christian application situation yet. We're more at the general application level, but I think you'll still find this pretty interesting. So whenever you're ready, we can go ahead and roll.
All right, go right ahead.
All right. Welcome back, everyone, to the segment 2 presentation portion of our podcast, A Christian Perspective on Artificial Intelligence. So where in the last segment, we dealt with AI at the big picture level. In this segment, we're going to really plunge into the use of AI tools at the personal level, specifically the use of chatbots for a wide range of personal productivity purposes for general applications. Should have done this earlier. And then, in the segment following this one, for personal tools, there's no question that the most significant development in the past 5 years has been the chatbot revolution. And this was foreshadowed way back in 1966 with something called ELIZA. And that was a very crude machine speak program from MIT that was
Oh, I'm going to pause you for a second, Bruce. There's some noise in the back. Is that yours? So if you want to go back a little bit, or
Yeah, because every time we put him backstage or mute him, it's muting his video.
Okay.
So you may want to back it up just a couple seconds, Bruce.
And then he can mute his own right back there.
Oh, are you getting a mic?
Yes.
Are you getting my mic?
I think so.
It's okay. Yeah, we'll work with it. We just go back about a minute, and then we are good as gold.
Let me just mute my mic here on just a minute.
If it makes you feel any better, Bruce, I'm still a young spruce chicken, and I get in trouble by my wife all the time.
All right, so
I don't. Gemma stays in the other room. Except for it's too late. It's time for bed.
You are still muted, Bruce. I'll let you know that. You may want to unmute yourself.
Did I do that?
I don't think you muted him. Yeah, but he is muted, so I don't think we're going to be able to hear him while he's muted.
Let's see if the show goes on. But this is a great conversation, great thing that we as Christians, and I think the non-Christian world, it's really needs. So Bruce, we're ready. You'll need to unmute.
You will have. You're still muted, Bruce.
The joys. But you're doing great for the first time.
Okay.
There you go.
You ready? Here goes.
Yep.
All right.
And
Great
Stephen, you
command.
can, there you go, you got it.
A variety of simple household electronic tasks. But it was starting around 2022 with the chatbot applications, especially the fourth version of ChatGPT, that for the first time we were enabled to enjoy full-fledged, coherent, ongoing conversations to take place between a user and their computer. And it's these chatbots that we're now going to take a closer look at, since this is the AI tool category that's clearly having the biggest and most direct impact in our personal and family lives. Now, looking at things from a top level, the way any chatbot works is based around an electronic AI big brain that is carefully designed and trained by its developers to be able to generate coherent responses in a conversational format to any questions or requests from the user. Now, how this training is actually conducted is in itself a fascinating story, but in the interests of time, I'll only say that it's based on exposing the chatbot's big AI brain over an extended period of time that could last from weeks to months, to huge quantities of books, articles, images, and other digital information gathered from the internet and other sources, and then allowing the big brain to electronically process and sort all that information into usable formats. Now, if you actually look inside a trained chatbot big brain, you're going to see a vast layered network of literally billions of digital neurons. Basically, these are a bunch of tiny transistors, capacitors, and other electronic hardware. And these are all driven by software logic that they call a large language model that can recognize statistical patterns in the user's input word sequence and then predict and generate just one word at a time the best set of words for answering the user's question. So whenever you hold those long back and forth conversations with a chatbot, it's pretty amazing to realize that the chatbot's long, detailed, impressive, human-sounding answers are being generated one word at a time by nothing more than electronics and software. So let's now do a quick overview of the major commercial platforms for chatbots. There are 4 of them right now, and you're almost certainly familiar with this first one, ChatGPT, which was created and hosted by the OpenAI Corporation. And as we can clearly see, ChatGPT has quite a jump on the other 3 platforms in terms of the estimated peak number of daily users, which as of the latest count registered up to 250 million. The next in line, we have Google's Gemini chatbot coming in around 150 million users, which is still really substantial. And the 2 other well-known chatbot players are Claude by the Anthropic Corporation, which is especially good at software coding, and Grok from xAI, which is Elon Musk's AI company. Now, both of these have substantially lower usage, but they're still considered major players because, like the other 2, they're able to build and operate the most advanced large language models that are required for effective chatbot performance. But no matter which platform you choose, it's pretty clear that their chatbots are becoming more powerful, versatile, and available every single day. Now, personally, I've used ChatGPT for over a dozen general applications, and I've listed them here. As you can see, they range anywhere from simple, fast, fact-checking, and general curiosity questions to more sophisticated apps like the ones you see on the right-hand side here, where we could ask, for instance, for controversial opinions on political issues, or even help with self-authored book and article editing. Now, the 13th application I've highlighted in yellow, image generation, and this is one of the most powerful extra features embedded within ChatGPT. Actually, this feature is quite dear to my own heart because I've been using it extensively to help me create an online documentary movie inspired by my first historical novel. And I thought you might enjoy seeing a brief demo of how I was able to use GPT to quickly create an audio-visual clip for my documentary, starting with GPT's image generation capability. So I started out by asking the ChatGPT program a very specific historical question I had up front because I needed that clarity before I launched into the artistic creation aspects of my documentary. And the question was this: I'm creating a short historical documentary on the life of Martin Luther. Please clarify if Luther initially wanted to overthrow Catholicism when he nailed his famous 95 Theses to the church door in Germany. In 3 seconds, GPT came back with its researched answer and says, no, When Martin Luther posted the 95 Theses in 1517, he intended to challenge specific abuses, especially the sale of indulgences, and to spark an academic and theological debate within the Catholic Church, but not to create a new church or to overthrow Catholicism. And it goes on to say it was only later that conflicts with church authorities deepened and core doctrinal differences became clearer, that Luther's movement eventually evolved into the Protestant Reformation. Well, I wanted a bit more clarification from GPT as to what was meant by the term indulgences. And so I next asked it to give me some more insight on that, which it was happy to provide a couple of seconds later. So here, I think you can clearly see the value of the conversational mode of ChatGPT for follow-up or clarification questions. Just take a peek at that for a second. And just to make that point even clearer, I asked yet another follow-up question of ChatGPT to get some more context for how the sale of indulgences might actually have triggered Luther's anger to the point of no return. So I next asked GPT to provide a specific example where Luther became especially upset about the church's sale of indulgences. And as you can see here, I got back a very useful response that described Luther's observation of the Dominican friar Johann Tetzel collecting money from ordinary people in exchange for indulgent certificates that promised to release them or their loved ones from punishment of their sins after death in purgatory. And that it was this encounter that proved to be the final spark for Luther to write and post his 95 Theses. So here again, we can see the value of ChatGPT's conversational mode, which allowed me to quickly go deeper in my research into Luther's motivations. All right, so having my historical context details clarified, I was now good and ready for the image generation aspect. And so I asked ChatGPT to generate for me an AI image of Luther at work. Me, please generate a widescreen, photorealistic, HD quality image of Luther sitting at his desk, writing his 95 Theses. And 15 seconds later, ChatGPT's integrated image generation program, which it calls DALL-E, produced the following image. And as you can see, it's not bad. Remember, this took only, like I say, 15 seconds, and a lot of visual details really are pretty impressively portrayed here. Well, now having this high fidelity image, I submitted it to my favorite AI video generation site called Artlist. And Artlist was able to use my ChatGPT image that I just generated as the starting point for then generating a 10-second HD video clip. And I got it to do this simply by inputting the following command prompt. Me, show Luther in the process of writing his 95 Theses. Keep his head down throughout the video and do an orbital scan from right to left. About 60 seconds later, this is what I got. And as you can see, the video generation program obeyed the instructions I gave it really well. All right, so I've got now a nice little video clip of Luther writing his 95 Theses. So finally, for the last step, I used ChatGPT and Artlist to create several other short video clips, including one of Luther hammering his 95 Theses poster to the door of the Wittenberg Church in Germany. And I also added an AI-generated voice for narration. And voila, after about 15 minutes of total effort on my part, starting from my first image generation, I ended up finally with this 80-second audio-visual segment that I was later able to incorporate into my overall historical documentary video.
Martin Luther, a German Catholic monk and professor of theology, never dreamed that his bold action on All Hallows' Eve in 1517 would rock the foundations of religious faith and alter the course of world history. At the time, Luther had no desire to disrupt the order and doctrines of the Catholic Church or to dishonor its Pope. His main intent was simply to push for the gradual reform of a recently instituted church fundraising practice, that being the sale to impoverished parishioners of what were known as sacred indulgence certificates. These certificates supposedly guaranteed their holders that they would have to spend less painful time in purgatory, having their sins cleansed prior to entering heaven. To protest this clearly corrupt practice, Luther wrote up a lengthy list of propositions for academic disputation, which he called his 95 Theses, and nailed them to the main door of the All Saints' Church in Wittenberg.
So hopefully this demo gives you a good appreciation for the power of newer chatbots to engage with you, not only in question and answer conversations, but also to really do some creative work for you as well. So if I look back on my experience over the past year with ChatGPT for general applications, I really saw some huge benefits. First of all, ChatGPT saved me many, many hours of internet research time. And also, there's no question that it provided far more direct, thorough answers to my questions or stated problems than I know I would probably ever have gotten from searching one at a time for individual expert opinions on Google, reference books, or even from interviewing people. Third, ChatGPT's ongoing conversational mode allowed me to ask specific, targeted follow-up questions for assessing the validity of ChatGPT's original answer. And the fourth benefit was that, in addition to answering my questions, as you saw, ChatGPT was also really good at doing things I request, like generating the images I just showed you or editing some written article I provided. So these are really some great personal benefits. Now, there are some real cautions as well, and we really need to go through these quite clearly. First, chatbot responses will occasionally contain errors or be misleading. And I'll note that ChatGPT places a disclaimer notice to this very effect right below its question input box. But the good news is, if you catch or even suspect an error in the answer and point it out to GPT, it will profusely apologize and generally do a great job of correcting or clarifying things in its follow-up responses. Now, one of the more frequent complaints is that when you ask them to provide reference sources for their answers, chatbots have been known to attribute their responses to erroneous or even hallucinated sources. For instance, attributing some fine-sounding GPT paraphrased quote to some off-the-wall or even non-existent author or journal article. And at times, chatbot answers, especially to political or social issue questions, can reflect the cultural biases of either their chatbot trainers or the prevailing political climate. Now, all of these things can be subtle and very hard to detect, so you really need to stay alert to them. Now, there are some additional cautions that deal with the potential for overusage or misusage of chatbots. As reported in a number of journal and newspaper articles over the past few years, unfortunately, overuse of chatbots or misuse can lead to AI psychosis, delusions, and radicalization of the mental framework of the user. There's also the very real possibility for the chatbot user to become emotionally or romantically dependent on a non-human entity. It's easy to imagine, for instance, the possibility of a chatbot serving as the constant conversational companion of a lonely teenager to the point where she becomes so dependent on it that she no longer makes the effort for serious human contact. And this isn't just a concern for lonely people. It can happen whenever a person begins preferring the company of a machine that always agrees with them over the challenge of real relationships with other human beings. And one thing that can really exacerbate this type of situation is the fact that a chatbot will usually refer to itself in the first person as I. And if you're in the process of conversing with it for a long enough time, you can easily forget that it's not a real person. Another danger of overuse or misuse, as we mentioned in the first segment, is that these can lead to the decay or underdevelopment of critical thinking skills. For instance, letting chatbots write student term papers or other documents that should really have been originally drafted at least by the human user. And of course, this is the very frequent misuse of ChatGPT that today's teachers are absolutely dreading. And last but not least, for those tempted enough to do so, chatbots can be fairly readily adapted to the illicit tasks of cheating on tests, plagiarizing another person's work, or copyright violations. So finally, to summarize my main personal recommendations for using major commercial chatbots like ChatGPT for general applications, here's what I would say in a nutshell. Feel free to use these tools with a reasonably cautious level of confidence in the quality, usefulness, and general safety of the responses that these tools can offer to your questions and requests for image generation. They give you some good factual accuracy, direct, thorough responses. They provide strong safeguards against explicit sexual content and also against graphic violence, and also safeguards against extremist, hateful, or propagandistic content. But what you don't want to do is over-rely on chatbots as a substitute for your own original or critical thinking. And you certainly don't want to ever become seduced into accepting verbatim a chatbot's answer as always being perfectly correct, simply because of the authoritative sounding, always friendly, encouraging personal tone the chatbot answers will typically employ to try to validate the user's intelligence and sense of self-worth. Now remember, the chatbot makers have a vested interest in wanting you to keep using their products, and so they generally will make strong efforts to make you feel good about your experience with them, even in some cases where you might have been better off with a less patronizing answer that doesn't shade a hard truth that it would be good for you to hear. Okay, so we've reached the end of segment 2 now on using chatbots for general applications. It seems like at this point it's a good time to pause and have some Q&A discussion before we proceed into segment 3 on Christian-focused applications. All right, so here we are, back again.
What's going on, guys? Moderator of the month.
This is our moderator of the month. His name is Dave, and even though he is not a Christian, he is often at our panels and fellowshipping with us, and he's been a real valuable asset to us. And I believe he has some questions or comments for you.
Yeah, okay. I got a couple. One of them, because I want to get the Christian perspective on this. So yeah. I'm Hindu and I live in Mongolia, right? And in Asia, you're probably aware Asia is very, we are much more advanced when it comes to AI than the United States.
Yeah.
So my question is, because you talked about AI psychosis, I want to know your perspective and the American perspective on why AI psychosis and delusions do not exist in Asia. Why is it only occurring in the West?
Oh, I didn't mean to imply that. If I did, that was not meant to be implied. It was only in the U.S. I mean, it's a general concern. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a general concern in the U.S. And this isn't like a gotcha. Stephen and Dan, they know I like to bring different perspectives to the table, like an international one. And I'm trying to pin down, because I see this in U.S. news. People are unaliving themselves because AI tells them to, right? Like they talk to AI and they do it. They have psychotic delusions in America when they use AI. But here in Asia, we use AI more than people in the US, and that doesn't exist here. And I'm trying to figure out what the difference is.
That's interesting.
Can I add really quick, Dave, because you know me enough. Not for me, but could you ask that question like you were talking to a 4-year-old?
Why does AI? Yeah, I could just sum it down and be like, why does AI psychosis only exist in America?
And defining the AI psychosis.
I'll reword and say, why do people do crazy things from AI in only America?
I'll give you my opinion, Dave.
Thank you,
Go
Dave.
for it.
Yeah.
In my opinion, from my vast study, it's because there's been an orchestrated attempt of lowering the American IQ, and it has a lot to do with what they put in our food, in our drinking water, and everything we consume. And I think that has helped aid in the fact that we're more receptive to AI delusions and AI psychosis versus countries in Asia, which utilize AI much more than we do, but you guys don't have all the deadly chemicals dumbing you down.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I could see that logic.
Yeah.
I could see that logic.
Yeah.
What's your perspective? I can't see your name. I apologize. What's your name?
I'm Bruce. Yeah.
Bruce. Okay.
Yeah.
You're the nice Bruce. Okay.
Well, to tell you the truth, that's a really good thought. I had really kind of not really been thinking in terms of the worldwide aspect of that comment, but now that you mention it, it does seem like an interesting point to consider. And I think Stephen's answer is as good as I could offer at this point. I really don't know, although I do know that we in the U.S. do seem to have our share of special issues with these kinds of things. And I don't know if it's just, the kind of information we're fed, sort of the freedoms that we've had over the years, the centuries to kind of do our thing, think what we want. Just kind of unbridled freedom sometimes can lead to some problems. And
I was wondering that too.
What's that?
Yeah, Dave,
I was wondering.
Oh, wait a minute. Could Dave, while you're talking, because I know you're good, can you ask your Asian chat GPT that question? See what it says?
I mean, which one? That was going to be my next. Well, that was going to be my next question because I use DeepSeek, which is in China.
Oh yeah.
I use Gemini. I use ChatGPT. I use Claude. I use a variety of things.
Yeah,
I will do that. I could let me pull that up.
I also utilize Claude. I utilize the GPT and I utilize Grok. I haven't really messed around with Gemini yet. I didn't realize how popular it was until this presentation.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, not to get too diverted, but Gemini, I don't know if you're aware, but they use a stripped down version of that on Google search. So every time.
Well, Gemini is run off of Google. It's owned by Google. It's the same thing.
Right. So on the Google search bar, every time you put in a question, that AI mode that comes up is connected with their Gemini technology and it's kind of a stripped down version of their full platform called Gemini. So that's all I know about that one. But
I'm asking this.
Yeah, if you include all the people that use that search bar AI mode, boy, that's going to get up in the 750 million to a billion people. That's a lot. Yeah.
I just put it in a ChatGPT and I can share the screen and we can explore this together. My thinking is it's the culture, and you kind of touched on this, Bruce, when you said that it's the unbridled freedom.
Share your screen.
You want me to hold on, let me finish my point. Is that like in America, and I've experienced this too, it's like with alcoholism, drug abuse, going to strip clubs all the time and hooking up. That's like the norm, right? It's all about what I want and what feels good in the moment. But here in Asia, it's very much community minded. And so I think that could play a role in it, even though Asia is just as sexualized in the United States, for instance. People are more concerned about like because I'm a married man in Mongolia, my wife is Mongolian, I'm very much concerned with what I say online now, because it's not like I'm in America and people think, oh, this guy's a weirdo. It's like, oh, this guy's wife married him. His whole family must be weird, right? There must be something going on with the family. So let me share my screen because I haven't actually read this yet. I haven't actually read this yet. AI psychosis. All right, I'm sharing it, and I'll zoom in a bit. All All right, so I'm going to just read this. We're going to gun through this. There are a few reasons you may be noticing more stories about AI psychosis in the US than in Asia, but it's important to separate three different things: actual psychosis or delusional episodes, media reporting on these episodes, and general AI use by ordinary people. The vast majority of AI users in both Asia and the West are not developing psychosis. AI doesn't create psychosis from nothing. When researchers and clinicians discuss AI-related delusions, the pattern is usually that a person already has risk factors, including bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, severe sleep deprivation, heavy isolation, existing conspiracy thinking, and intense spiritual grandiose beliefs. That AI can sometimes become a, quote, mirror, end quote, that reinforces the ideas the person already has. Instead of arguing with the delusion, it may generate responses that the person interprets as validation. Oh, this is my point. Individualism versus collectivism may matter. Many Asian societies place stronger emphasis on family involvement, social harmony, community feedback, and interdependence. If someone starts saying, the AI told me I'm a prophet, they may quickly hear, no, that's not realistic. Let's talk about this. In more individualistic cultures, unusual beliefs may go unchallenged for longer because people are encouraged to pursue personal interpretations and identities. This doesn't mean one culture is better than another. It just changes how quickly reality checks occur. This point is true. I see this firsthand.
Yeah.
Number 3, different media ecosystems. The American media heavily covers unusual, dramatic, or alarming stories. A single case of someone having a breakdown connected to AI can generate news articles, YouTube videos, podcasts, and social media discussion like we're doing now. Meanwhile, millions of ordinary AI interactions never become news. You may simply be seeing more reporting from the US than other countries where similar incidents receive less attention. How AI is being used. In parts of Asia, many users treat AI as a productivity tool, a translator, a study assistant, a coding helper, or a business tool. That is true. In the United States, a significant subset of users also use AI for therapy-like conversations, spiritual exploration, identity exploration, and emotional companionship. Those uses aren't inherently bad, but they involve deeper psychological territory where vulnerable individuals can sometimes get into trouble. Number 5. Oh, and here's the thing, by the way, this is my question. I see AI psychosis in America from AI, but don't see it in Asia. People aren't doing harmful things here, but we use it more. Why is that? Now, this is important because my ChatGPT knows I'm in Mongolia and I talk a lot with it about like social things as well as like government processes, right? So that's to preface number 5.
Yeah.
You're in Mongolia, which may give you a different perspective. From your conversations, you've described Mongolia as having a more grounded, practical pace of life compared to some experiences you had in the US. When daily life is focused on family, work, community, and immediate real-world responsibilities, there may simply be fewer opportunities to spend 12 hours a day spiraling into an AI-generated worldview. This is true. One important caveat. I wouldn't conclude that Asia has no AI-related delusion problems. Countries such as Japan, South Korea, and China have reported concerns about technology addiction, parasocial relationships, and excessive immersion in virtual environments. They may just manifest differently or receive different levels of public attention. So the most likely explanation is not that the AI affects differently biologically. It's a combination of different media coverage, different cultural norms, different patterns of AI use, different rates of reporting and visibility, pre-existing mental health vulnerabilities, and a small subset of users. The actual number of people experiencing serious AI-related delusions appears to be very small compared to the enormous number of people using AI every day. Okay, so I even learned something from that.
That's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say it's pretty accurate because I mean, it's right in that like when I was thinking of like AI psychosis and AI delusions, I'm naturally thinking the American context, right?
Yeah.
Like people unaliving themselves or people assaulting people, like bizarre things.
Right.
But when it brought up, especially Japan and South Korea about technology addiction, I mean, there's technology addiction is a huge problem in Japan, and everyone knows it. There's the concept of the otaku, which is basically a recluse obsessed with a particular thing. It could be anime, video games, whatever. AI otaku exist, right? So that actually makes sense. But we don't hear about it because the AI otaku are not like setting themselves on fire in the streets. You know,
Well,
they're not doing anything weird.
let's let Mr. Bruce unpack some of that for us. What is your thoughts on it?
Well, I thought that article was really great. It kind
Mhm.
of sort of gave some reasons for, and now that I think about it, you don't hear that much about Asian, mass shootings, or now I know they have different gun laws and stuff, but you just don't hear quite as much of that kind of thing going on over there. And so I think that was a good point to raise. And it may be a little more of a U.S. issue, but not, as it said, not because of biological differences, just because it's because of, like, I think as Stephen was pointing out, it's the way we've been exposed to things over the years, from our media, the way we've been raised, our values. I think it's just kind of something a little more peculiar. I don't even know about America versus like France or Germany or other places like that, what the difference would be there. I'm not even quite aware of what the differences are there, but I would imagine they would be a little bit closer to
Yeah.
the US situation.
Yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
what I've been seeing online because
yeah,
I'm very much into AI, and I'm
yeah.
like, I'm into like transhumanism and things like that. So I'm kind
Mhm.
of like on the deep end
Yeah.
of AI and
Okay.
things. But yeah, I
All
would
right.
say that's correct. I would say
Yeah.
that's correct. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting. The second question I had, and we
Yeah.
can chat about this for a
Uh,
while.
mhm.
What AI do you prefer to use?
Mhm.
And so like Gemini, DeepSeek, Claude,
Yeah.
whatever. Which do you prefer to use, and like what AI agents do you code in specifically to help you?
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Well, I've been primarily ChatGPT. I kind of started out with that, and I just kind of, used it over and over and kind of branched out into different uses of it and everything. And I really liked it. I have tried Claude. I thought the answers were pretty good, that I got from that. I haven't used that nearly as extensively, but I do know people that have used it and have been very, you know, talked about it very favorably, especially, like I said, for the software coding aspects. Um, I've used GPT, frankly, to help me with some Python coding that I was trying to do for AI, where I was saying all kinds of error messages and things like that I couldn't figure out. And it would just kind of at the snap of a finger, point out what the
Mhm.
problem was, and I'd get it fixed. And I was so happy. And I was pretty impressed with ChatGPT's capability, even on error diagnostics and things like that. As far as software coding, um, let's see, I probably have asked it to do a little bit of that. Yeah, but it's all within ChatGPT basically, and it's done a reasonably credible job for the somewhat limited applications I've needed it for. So I'm more of a ChatGPT guy, I have to say. As far as
That's
my
fair.
experience.
No.
Yeah, yeah. But I've heard good things about the other ones. I don't know much about XAI. I mean, I've heard different people had issues with it in the past with certain statements it had, but I think they kind of cleaned those up. And I think it's kind of really integrated well with Twitter. And if I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but it supposedly is. And
Mhm.
so that's supposedly one of the advantages of it. But yeah,
Oh
I
yeah,
was
no, no.
yeah. So that's basically like I said in my second segment. Did you hear the second segment I went through with the
I was actually bouncing in and out
oh,
because I
okay.
was I go on other channels too, so I
Oh,
was
that's
like
okay.
in the
Yeah.
chat moderating and like being on another channel. And then I came here and now I've got that
Yeah.
channel up, so
Well,
I bounce around.
my only point is I've used GPT for about 12 different, applications, range from the very simple to the more sophisticated. And the last one I was showing a demo of image generation and helping me put
Yep.
together a, a
Oh yeah, I
video
saw that. Yep.
historical clip thing. So that was a lot of fun. And it's kind of helped to kind of give me a kind of a creative angle of my life that I didn't have before. Frankly, I'm able to express things and explore things in that area. That's really exciting. I like that. It has its temptations. You spend a little too much time on that stuff, but nonetheless, I think it's pretty interesting.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm actually pulling up my Facebook because we've got they're appropriate, but like there's a Christmas photo that my wife generated for me. We do like AI photos, and I actually converted this into my cat.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, those
Yeah,
are fun.
so this is like an old one.
Yeah.
Let me share this quick. But yeah, this is AI can do some interesting things, and I appreciate kind of your insights. Stephen and Dan, what kind of AI do you guys use? Because Stephen makes charts like you would not believe.
Stephen, are you still here? Jump in. Dan, you won't be surprised, doesn't use it. Well, I guess now I've learned I do it every time I hit Google.
That's right. You're using it, you didn't know it.
But I'm encouraged because it sounds like I might be able to be give the appearance of being smart. So we'll have to see. I'll hang around you, Bruce. I'll look smarter if I use it. But Bruce, now, did you use it with any of your books, or was that after you published?
Yeah, I use it after I published. I kind of went back and said, okay, I fed it like the first chapter and said, how would you have rewritten this if you had been my editor? And it did a pretty credible job of editing, and it's really able to add color, kind of tone and things like that. I didn't think it was startlingly different, but it was good. It kind of, it didn't screw it up, that's for sure. And if I had used it as my frontline editor instead of instead of a live person who I paid thousands of dollars for, I think I look back now and I think I might have gotten almost as good a product from the editing that GPT could have provided, given my several $1,000 live editor. So something to think about in the future.
Next book.
Yeah. What's that?
That's your next book, then.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know. Yeah, I guess that would make sense, is kind of try it out and see how it works. I know some people have tried to actually have it author an entire book and put their name on it, and have gotten into some trouble with that. And I don't know. I read one that I thought was pretty clearly from a famous author. His latest novel came out, and it was very flat sound. It didn't sound like him. And I was almost sure it was probably an AI generated his latest novel version. I was really disappointed in it. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to go back and see if I can figure that out.
Well, fortunately, I am very flat sounding and have never written a book, so I can write an AI novel and then do a bunch of AI novels, and it will be consistent.
There you go. That's right. That's right.
Well, Bruce, I'm curious, what is your line of work? Are you into like network security and cybersecurity?
Yeah.
Or like
no, I'm a retired aerospace engineer. So I worked in the aerospace industry for about 30 years. And I was in the guidance and control area. We worked on rockets and missile launches and things like that. And after then I kind of switched over about 3/4 into my career. I switched into the HR area, like training and development, things like that. So I have a little bit of both engineering and HR sort of, background. And it's kind of with the HR experience, actually, that I got more into this kind of creative aspect and interested in that. So, yeah. But I think it's one thing. I think this AI has kind of generated it's kind of all of my past passions and everything have kind of come together in this sort of a new platform. And it's been really exciting, and I like it. And my wife keeps trying to contain me from, going off the rails with this thing. So I got to watch it.
Oh, with AI.
AI. Right.
Oh,
right.
Interesting.
Right.
My wife's Mongolian. She uses AI just as much, if not more, than I do.
Oh, so, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And how
because
old
we have our own businesses, and like I mean, my YouTube channel, I use AI for like the thumbnails, the hashtags, and like things of that nature. So the marketing, and then and then I use AI for like financial projections and like data sets, and like I found AI is really useful because like being in Mongolia, I follow US news, right, to see what's going
Yeah.
on in like the Carmelo Anthony case, for
Oh
instance,
yeah.
or like how
Right.
like, and so it's like, okay, give me a summary of the legal process for convicting Carmelo Anthony and why he was sentenced, and compare that to like Mongolia and throw it together, and I get a side by side
Oh wow.
analysis. So
And that was the stabbing in Texas, correct?
correct. That was the stabbing in Texas. And I've learned a lot about how Mongolia works. And I even got links to the Criminal Code of Mongolia. And I'm now a legal nerd, apparently.
Wow.
And how old is your wife, Dave?
She's 30. I'm 37.
Okay. Well, you guys are sort of in the regime that will be a little more easily adapted to this stuff, I guess.
Well, yeah, and like I'm what's called like an elder millennial, because like when I was growing up, we didn't have cell phones. YouTube was only 3 minutes long. We still had the rotary phones. We still had like, the phones. We didn't have cell phones, right? So we had landlines. And it was kind of like the best of both worlds, right? Because we had MySpace, right? But we weren't obsessed with it. We would go outside and play, and literally after school, like I met one of my girlfriends who is now my best friend in high school, who went to a different school, met her on MySpace. And literally we come home from school on a weekend and then be like, all right, let's get on MySpace and figuring out who's doing what this weekend. And we all like IM each other, get into group chats. And then it's like, okay, party at Dana's house. Cool. I live, she's in Oakdale, I'm in Minneapolis. It's a 3-hour bus ride. All right, I'll see you there in a few hours. And then everyone gets on their bike or gets on a bus and we migrate out there. Right. And then like we go, and like if we see a fun YouTube clip or a song, we'll all be in the same room watching it together and hanging out. Right. So it's kind of like that era. Payphones still existed, right? So we had the internet to a point, but we also still went outside. We hung out at Mall of America. We rode bikes. You know what I mean? It was just kind of, we got both. So I got on the tail end, like the 70s and 80s that everybody loves. We got on the tail end of that.
That's cool. That's great.
It was good.
Because on Bruce, you yourself, your testimony is you found the whole Jesus Christ when you were young, but then you went more.
So I was kind of raised in a sort of a traditional Presbyterian Methodist, go to church on Sunday, go home, forget about it, sort of family life. And my parents were very, moral, upstanding and all that. And it was when I was about 9 years old, I think my little neighbor boy across the street asked me to go to this Baptist summer kids camp. And I went there, and they had this, first night they sat us down on these haystacks in this barn, and they had this kind of fire and brimstone preacher came out and started flailing away. And, he had all these, 45 kids sort of mouths open, kind of listening to this guy, and kind of scaring the heck out of us, with, all this, kind of concern about what would happen to you if you didn't, if you died and you didn't know Jesus and that kind of thing. But there was something, despite all his sort of harsh, I would say, kind of presentation, something really got into me that night. I felt like I wanted Jesus's protection somehow. I liked that idea of having a protective thing from Jesus. And so that night I kind of just went forward and sort of, said this sinner's prayer and everything. And that kind of got me on a path, and that I quickly fell away from in my teenage years, and was in rock and roll bands and, doing all the stuff that was associated with that for about 10, 15 years. Got married, got my first job, no church, nothing. They didn't, I did have a sense of God being present, and I never doubted his existence, but nothing beyond that. And then I don't know, just gradually we started going back into the church life. Our daughter had some problems as a teenager. We got more involved with the church. I just got more serious about reading the Bible, and one thing led to another. I just got more logically and kind of emotionally satisfied by what I was reading. And at some point, I felt like, God, you're really with me, or I'm with you and you're with me. And it all felt really good. And that's kind of where it's been, going from there. So that's my testimony in a nutshell, or a big shell, whatever you want to call it.
That sounds kind of similar to an experience that I had, because I remember, like, I'm not Christian, but I remember my mother was Christian, and she would drag me to, like, church summer camps, right? Right. And it was a non-denominational church called Grace Church of Eden Prairie in like the early 2000s, right? And it was just like boring and whatever. Well, we're at this church camp, right? And they were talking about how it's one thing to say you believe in Jesus, right? But it's another thing to live it, right?
Yeah.
You can know the Bible, but will you live by it? And they had a guy who was in the military. He actually showed up and he was going to like speak, and nobody knew what he was going to speak about, right? So a bunch of us kids are there. He pulls out a bulletproof vest and he uses that analogy, right? This bulletproof vest is like Jesus. How many of you know this will stop a bullet?
Yeah.
Everyone raises their hands. He pulls out an assault rifle, an AR-15, and just holds it and says, who wants to put it on? Everyone put it down. It gets better. I kid you not. I could not make this up, because we all were horrified at this point, because everyone's looking like, is he serious? What's he doing? And even the adults are like, wait, what's the point here? This guy turns to the youth pastor and says, you call yourself a pastor, step up, put it on.
Wow.
And we're all like, whoa. And that was the whole point of his thing. It's like, it's one thing to know Jesus or say you believe in Jesus, right?
Yeah.
To wear the vest is to say you believe in Jesus. And then it was like, I think it was like putting on the armor of God and living out your faith. But he turned to the youth pastor and told him to step up, and then berated him for not doing so.
Yeah.
And that's what started the whole thing of put on the armor of God, you failed.
Yeah.
And we're all like, I mean, as kids, we were traumatized. We're like, wait, is he going to kill the youth pastor? Like, what's the point here? But like, he went into it, and that is one of the few Christian, like, pastor. I don't know if he was a pastor or not. He was just like a speaker, but that was one of the Christian messages that actually stuck with me.
Wow. Wow. That's a good one. No, that's a good one too.
How old were you?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
How old were you guys?
Oh, we were in high school, right?
Oh.
Yeah. So, I mean, we were high school age. I think we were like, I was like 15, 16, right? So you have like freshmen, like 13 to 18-year-olds, right? But that just blew my mind, because like, I get the shock tactic of saying that to kids. Who wants to put it on? And of course the kids are going to be scared. But for him to turn to the pastor and do that, and then tell him he's failing as a pastor.
Yeah.
And then he left. Like, he didn't give any speeches after that. He just left. And we're all like, wow, okay. Like,
yeah. It's part of the challenge for Christians, I think, is that in some ways, I feel like we're kind of held to this sort of higher standard of perfected behavior. Because the Bible kind of preaches that kind of standard, right? And so we want to live up to it. And we get into this situation where, when we're trying to explain how we feel about our faith or whatever, people always point back to, well, you're not showing it, the way that the Bible says, or you're not living it perfectly, and that kind of thing. And the part of the thing for Christians is, well, it's not that we are perfect. It's that we are rescued from being imperfect. And that's what we look forward to. That's the hope we look forward to. And this is the premise, is that because we have that hope, we then out of freedom have the ability to behave better, and it's more like a well-motivated behavior. That's the idea. and people can get really wrapped around the axle on that, trying to get that squared away. But it is a problem. I mean, because when Christians behave badly, man, it blows the witness really, really, really quickly. And sometimes it's a little unfair, but sometimes it is. And we just have to live with that. And,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's good.
There are a lot of Christian cliches I don't agree with. Like, I think they could be worded better, right? Because I've heard people say, "Oh, it's like, well, Christians aren't perfect. We're just forgiven," and I'm like, okay, that's a cop out. But I mean, like, I get the logic. I can see where you're going with that because I feel like what you're trying to communicate isn't a cliche. What you're trying to communicate is Christians are not perfect, but they are striving to live like Jesus. There's an effort to live like Jesus.
That's a good way to put it.
So I think that's a better way of wording it, because if you say, "Oh, well, we're just forgiven," it's like, okay, well, you're just a screw up, right? Who cares?
Oh, right.
Yeah. But I mean,
that's good. That's good.
I'm reinforcing. I'm trying to reinforce your point here. I'm trying to steelman the point, because it's like you're striving to live the faith, and that's something that, at least personally as a Hindu, I can respect, even though I don't.
Yeah.
Even if I don't agree with the theology, if you were attempting to live out your faith, yes, you're going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes. I make mistakes. We all do this. That's If you were making the attempt and stumble, as Christians say, fine, because there's the overall goal. It's like, fine, all right, it happens, whatever, not a big deal.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point. We don't want to abuse grace in the sense that, I'm forgiven, therefore I can do anything I want. We don't want to project that attitude. And I mean, deep down, I mean, I know I strive, to be like Christ. I really do. But I don't like to get into this striving so much that it's a dead weight of, gee, I'm not making it. I'm not doing enough. I'm not pleasing Jesus enough. I'm not doing enough to where I'm just trying to kind of relax and letting him help me to strive. I mean, maybe that's the best way to put it. So
that's fair. I wasn't necessarily addressing you. I was more addressing that cliche that I heard that has bothered me since childhood, because it's just so dumb.
Yeah.
Right.
No, you're right. Yeah.
But it's cool that you have an aerospace background. Actually, to kind of circle back to AI here, my sister-in-law's boyfriend, like he's in Singapore. He just graduated, and he's like in aerospace technology. So I might have just made him a job connection too. Who knows? But you're in the US, right? Right.
Well, yeah, I'm kind of 20 years removed from having worked at my last aerospace.
Oh, I see. Okay.
However,
I'm sure you know people.
Comments.
I was going to say, I'm sure you know people, but no, I get it. No, that's just interesting, because I know like AI overlaps with a lot of things like aerospace and like military and like intelligence, law enforcement, business, right? I'm more in the business and content creation side of things, but even I see how like you're in aerospace engineering. I gotta ask, I have heard, and this could be wrong, but I've heard like people just talk about aeroplanes have AI where, if God forbid both pilots are incapacitated, the AI could in theory land the plane. Is this true?
I am not 100% sure how far advanced they are to that level, although I know they are moving towards it. I mean, they already have really, really good autopilots that can do certain phases of the flight very, very well. And I think the autopilots are capable of landing planes, but there might have to be, I'm not sure about the level of human just kind of oversight or supervision. I'm not 100% sure about that. But I have absolutely no doubt, at least the way things seem to be going, that they will be able to have exactly what you're talking about before long, if they don't have it already. So
gotcha.
yeah, it's
okay. And I'm
Yeah.
glad you're here because I've got questions on like that too, because I am aware of like different phases,
Mhm.
but I've seen people online be like, oh yeah, AI can land a plane. And I'm like, can it though? Because it's like, I don't know how autopilot works.
Yeah.
It's like, on the one hand, in theory, on paper, it makes sense,
Yeah.
but I don't know if we're there yet. So it's good to have like an industry expert
Yeah.
that like
Well,
knows.
you know what I would do? I would ask ChatGPT.
Oh, you would? Really? You would?
I'll bet you that'll
Earlier
have
you were
probably a more up-to-date answer than I would on that question.
really? Okay,
But,
because interesting. Well, because the reason why I say this is
Yeah.
because earlier you mentioned to like
Yeah.
avoid giving up your own critical thinking,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
this is kind of my elder millennial thinking, right? Where I don't use ChatGPT for anything. I just assume, oh, this is an industry expert. If he doesn't know, he could like
Yeah.
email someone. He
Yeah.
could like call a guy. That's what I was
I
thinking.
know.
I didn't
See,
know you'd be like, oh yeah, it's ChatGPT.
I know. See, this is the new wave. I mean, it's like, as I told you, I've been out of the industry for 20 years, and I don't necessarily keep up with, all the ins and
I
outs.
see.
I know when I was there, I mean, they were really moving fast with the autopilot designs, to be able to do things like that. And I thought they were able to land aircraft in an emergency situation already, but the extent and maybe it's under certain ideal conditions. I'm not really sure about that. So
Okay, well, ChatGPT says yes, depending on what you mean by AI. Modern commercial aircraft can already perform highly automated landings, uses systems such as Autoland. Examples include Boeing 737,
yes,
the Boeing 77 or the 787 Dreamliner, and Airbus A350 when equipped and operating under the proper procedures.
right.
However, traditional autopilot is not the same thing as modern AI. Okay, so it's a different thing. Got it.
Yeah.
now-
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess it exists. Cool. Look at
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
I would throw
And
in
then-
though. Oh,
can I ask? I
well,
gotta jump in.
let me throw this
Go ahead.
first. Is that kid I know has had a Tesla, and that autopilot drove him into a fence and a telephone pole. So I don't know how Teslas can autopilot. My wife was in with him, driving on it, then missed an off ramp. I don't know how much. I wouldn't trust an airplane. Again, it would have to be both pilots just died and nobody else on the plane knew anything, because
that's what AI is saying. It says the challenge isn't usually the landing itself, it's safely handling every possible abnormal situation, from weather, equipment failures, bird strikes, runway incursions, sensor errors, and thousands of rare cases.
That's right.
So it's basically saying it can and it has successfully landed aircraft in simulations and experimental tests, but it doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like it's done it with passengers.
Yes, I think that sounds right. There you go, man.
Okay, well, I got to ask, because you said you've been out of the loop for 20 years. How old are you?
I'm
if
75.
You don't mind me asking?
75.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, take it as a compliment. Dan knows I like to have my, it's almost my bedtime. So I like to have my beer, and I'm like, there's no way, like, this guy's been out for 20 years. He's like in his early 50s. Like, there's no way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm like, there's no way he's been out for 20
alive.
years. I'm confused. Okay. So I guess that makes sense.
No, that's good. Well, plus, I would remember I was in the space business, not so much the air side of things. So,
did you work with like satellites
and stuff like that? Yeah. So, it was a fun career. I was glad I was in it. And
I have a biblical question on that. So my understanding is that there are some Christians who believe in something called the firmament, right? Where it's like an impenetrable layer around Earth.
Okay.
However, satellites are in space.
Mm-hmm.
So could you shed light on that disconnect, on how satellites can be in space, but Christians claim, like, you're a Christian and you launch satellites.
Right. Yeah, I
What
don't
is your response to the firmament and the
the firmament.
satellites?
I think what you're talking about is in Genesis and the early part where God created the heavens and the
Yes.
earth, and part of that involved this, if you will, this firmament of the waters above. I think they talked about, and
Mhm.
and basically, uh, it was. It, my understanding is that when the flood happened,
Mhm.
okay, that what happened was, and again, I don't know that I get this exactly from the Bible, but the
Sure.
implicit logic is that the heavens above and there was waters from below, wherever they were coming from, that all kind of collapsed down, and that's kind of what caused the flood. And so it's like the firmament, whatever that was, kind of, if you will, broke that kind of moisture firmament. So
Okay.
my understanding, or at least my guess, as to what happened. I don't know that.
So
that
the firmament, in your opinion, just doesn't exist anymore
I don't
in
think
your
so.
guess?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay.
I mean, for all intents and purposes, I believe that there was something that God, at the time when the Bible was or the words were communicated to Moses, or that he wrote down in the Bible, there was something that God had in mind when he talked about the firmament that was really there. It was meaningful, but things do evolve. I mean, to some degree, things happen,
Yeah,
and
things happen. Don't
I,
use the word evolution on
I
this
know,
channel,
I
sir,
know,
because
I know,
Dan's gonna
yeah,
make a video about you
I
now.
know, I know.
No, that'll be Stephen, because I was actually going to my show last week and it didn't come up, but I was just saying how Christians have evolved
Uh,
past, and
uh-huh.
because we have the spiritual nature now.
Yeah,
And
Yeah, no, I gotta give these guys a hard time. I gotta give these guys a hard time.
that's
No,
funny.
and that's interesting because you hear some of them, a lot of them believe in the flat Earth, and then not all of them do, but then I've heard of like the firmament and how like satellites can
Yeah,
actually break them, and so it's like okay, either they're in the firmament or the firmament doesn't. It's something different. So I'm glad
yeah,
you're here because
yeah.
it's not
Well,
every day I get to talk to a
yeah,
dude who launched satellites. That's pretty freaking cool. Just saying.
yeah. I haven't seen any evidence from satellite uh, imagery or experience that I've heard of that talks about some belt of moisture or firmament or whatever that was originally. I'm not aware of what that could be. It's not to say it wasn't there at one time, but it doesn't seem to
Oh
be
yeah,
there.
for sure.
Yeah,
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 no, and
right,
that's valid.
right.
So I'm curious on your perspective, and I'm just rapid firing questions, but
Sure.
your perspective, because AI and the internet and everything else requires data centers, and there's a
Yes.
lot of fuss in America about data centers
Yeah.
with water.
Yeah. Electricity.
How do you think that's going to play out in America? Because like here in Asia, like I live in Mongolia, and right now it was snowing earlier. It was
Yeah.
snowing earlier. It's 43 degrees Fahrenheit. It's raining. It was snowing, right? And
Wow.
so it's like Asian countries, they typically dump off, like China and Russia, they dump off their AI data centers either here in Mongolia, or China has Xinjiang and Inner Mongolia, which also just gets as cold, right? And we
Yeah.
don't need to really use water for that.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious how you think data centers will play out in America with people being against the New World Order, sabotaging the flock cameras and, you know,
I,
protesting them. Like, how do you think that's going to play out?
I don't, if just my opinion. I have a feeling that is just kind of overblown, that fear. I think that, yeah, there will
Okay.
be more water and electrical resource needs. I was reading somewhere that with the new data centers that are being proposed, that together they're going to need about, and I think this is by the year 2030, the equivalent of, I don't know, it was like 57 nuclear reactors or something in terms of energy generation. And that coming in the form of electricity and then water to cool it off. And so they said that, though, that it's basically the amount that would be needed to drive New York City the entire energy of New York City for one day, which I didn't quite get whether that was, I didn't quite get what the time span was, for this
Sure.
analysis. However, it didn't sound extremely overwhelming or undoable. It just sounded like a fairly big delta. But my understanding again is that a lot of this is going to be covered by investors, and these extra costs. They probably could, and they will trickle down to the users in some way in terms of higher electrical bills or water bills, and who knows what other kinds of special taxes. But I just don't get this feeling that that's going to be the biggest concern area in the future. In fact, I had a chart on that as one of my concerns. I actually dropped it because I just didn't see that as high as some of the other ones that I was listing.
And that'll be the next, or did we already cover those?
Yeah. No, we covered those in segment 1, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So on that, then, do you see it now? Is it any? Because I have no clue what they're talking about, but I know early computers. It took a whole room to do a computer. Is this parallel to that with the servers needing the cooling?
Well,
could they get smaller? Could they be? Or is this?
Yeah, most likely. Well, things are always getting smaller, but it's just that things are getting smaller, but yet the needs are getting bigger. So it's kind of like you're kind of, one's going in one direction and one's going in the other, and so that's why in the end you have to have these massive data centers to house these big computers, but they're doing so fantastically much more than what the big computers of the past did. So, and they're being asked to do more. So
it's not a one for one, because I mean, I used to live in one of the states I lived in, Utah.
Yeah,
they're through a drought right now, and there's like a proposed couple data centers, and everyone's like losing their mind because like they're already in a drought, and there's like water shortages. So it's like I'm kind of curious to see like how that plays out here.
Maybe I'm pushing this down as an issue too much. To me, it seems like an overcomable thing, but it might be a temporary anger and stuff. I don't know.
I tend to lean in your direction too. There's always like the snap when new technology comes out, because I remember studying business history in college, and like when the radio was invented and mass produced, hundreds of thousands of factory workers lost their jobs because their job was to get on on a megaphone and sing and dance and read the newspaper and entertain the workers, right? Several industries of people like that died overnight, hundreds of thousands, but it created more jobs in a different way. So I tend to lean toward your thing. So
model.
Now, another ignorant question. So these farms, aren't they hooked up to satellites then to broadcast? Or, is it like, the thermal plant? We have a thermal electric plant, and it's got to be pretty close to the cities. So is there no reason we couldn't put them in Siberia or up in Alaska that's always cold? Is it a hardwired system that you're going to have it close to the population centers?
That's a good question, Dan, and one which I don't know for sure what the answer is to that. I know some of this stuff, they're talking about, and I might be even confusing things here, but putting some of these AI capabilities in space. And I don't know.
I heard that.
Musk has been talking about that. I don't even know exactly what's involved with that, but and why exactly they would do that. I mean, I guess there's good reasons, but
it's cold up there, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's cold. It's cold,
but and there's a vacuum. There's no gravity.
But you have the reverse problem now, where it's too cold.
Yeah.
So,
that's true.
It's too cold, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Apollo 13, and they shut off the computer and stuff for a few hours, and everything just froze and became ice.
That was
right.
A great
so
movie.
It's like you have that problem to deal with.
That's great. That's great.
Now, Bruce, what years were you actively in the industry?
Yeah. So let's see, I got out of grad school in let's see, 84. So I started in 1984. And so I was there at Aerospace Corporation from 1984 to 2009. So, and before that, I worked in the helicopter manufacturing company for about 6 years. So that was my total. So yeah.
Wow, so you were closer to the beginning than the now.
I was closer
to the beginning of, the 60s was the boom for.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There's a huge, it was much easier. Let me put it this way. It was much easier for me to get a job back then than it was for these poor kids today. I just, I'm just flabbergasted at how difficult it is for, people to get jobs now. We just had them coming out the years after the Vietnam War, and everything was just opening up, and the aerospace industry was exploding. And, I had like, I don't know, 5 job offers, right after after I graduated. And it was really a great time, actually.
Yeah, I can attest to that, because it can be hard, especially with like computers and AI, like
Yes.
filtering
Yeah.
everything. If you don't know the keywords, you're kind of screwed. And then also too, my understanding is like today, like back in that time, businesses didn't do a credit check on people.
Yeah.
It's my understanding. But today they do. So they look at your credit score and they will deny you for a credit, like for bad credit.
Right. Huh.
Yeah, it's kind of wild, because I mean, I've heard of people not just from kind of your generation, but even like seeing stories of like soldiers coming home from World War II. Like they some of them were overwhelmed because they didn't know what jobs to take.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
they got off the ship, they got off the plane, they came home, they'd be like, "Hey, I need a job," and everyone and their grandmother just dumped an
Yeah.
offer on them.
It was,
And like, yeah.
it was a really good
So
time.
if you're a man and want to provide for a family, if you're a young
Yep.
man like I am, you want to start a family, I got work for you. Come here. Like, come
Yeah.
here. And the
Yeah.
wages were extremely competitive too, is another reason. And that's part of the reason why AI, like young people my age and younger, are trying to like be entrepreneurs and make money off of AI,
Yeah.
is like you make more. And I mean, this is kind of a more like, even with OnlyFans, like, which is kind of sad, but like AI OnlyFans are just anything related to technology and the internet in general,
Right.
right? It's easier to just hop on and stop making money,
Yeah.
but a lot of young people do want to work, and a lot of young men do want to work. And this is
Yeah.
something that I've found is, like, I have a YouTube channel where I do video games, right? And a lot of
Right.
young men get into that because, right, like they're so disenfranchised by the current system that they're like, I could just make money playing video games and staying single because I already play video games anyway. What's the point
Yeah.
of starting a family? What's the point of working for an employer and getting a 401k, right? And like
Right.
that logic isn't, I would say that logic is flawed, but it's not necessarily incorrect, if that
Mm.
makes sense,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Would you say that, I don't know, maybe even for yourself or for others, do you have a certain insecurity about your work situation just because you have to be a little more in the entrepreneurial
so
mode all
I used to be when I was in America, but I mean, I got married. I live in Mongolia. The system is completely different here,
ah,
right? So I'm a full-time content creator now, and I
ah,
make about so my main YouTube channel by itself makes about $1,000 to $1,200 a month, which isn't
wow.
much, but it's nice side money. It's nice side money on
Yeah,
YouTube, right?
sure.
Here in Mongolia, the average salary for a salaryman living here in the capital is $750 US. So
Oh my
I'm
God.
yeah,
Wow.
so it's like
Wow.
it balances out, right? It balances out.
Yeah.
So it's like I do fine as is. It's still a bit of a challenge for me because obviously I pay child support and I have like credit cards and like debt in America, right? So that's kind
I
of the
see.
problem.
I see.
But overall, I mean, my wife makes a lot of money. I'm in a good family. We're fine, right? But I would say in general there is a level of insecurity, partially
Yeah.
with AI because AI is replacing entire departments in one shot.
Yeah.
I used to work at Wells Fargo, and right before I left, like when I was talking with my wife and we're like, all right, we're exclusive. I'm gonna move to Mongolia. We all got called in a meeting at Wells Fargo saying that the quality assurance team I was on was going to go from like 75 people to 12. And I'm
Wow.
like, I am so glad I'm leaving at this point because mathematically, I am screwed if I stay in America, right? So I got, I was kind of like, I got really lucky with the timing of it. AI, there's some insecurity, but also there's some insecurity, I would say, of just like men in general, because like men want to work, men want to be a provider. It's really hard to get a job with a good pay that allows for you to start a family in America.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not just like it's not just like HR AI bots that like screen people out. It's also just, I would say it's the culture. It's feminism.
Yeah.
There's feminism. There's,
Yep.
guys want to be a provider, women don't want to be provided for. So what's the point of even dating, right? It's a logical choice,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I see it, right? What's the point of starting a family if in America there's no fault divorce and like someone can be like, yeah, I don't love you anymore, bye, and then you're
Yeah.
screwed for alimony, right? So
Right.
there's that aspect. So I would say,
Gee.
yeah, there's insecurity, but it's not just like AI related. It's like
Yeah.
all
Culture.
ties together. Yeah,
Right.
it's culture and all of that together.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Boy,
it is a big, I mean, worldwide change. Now, that Dave, do you see in Asia with the thought of America being a Christian country, and those Christians are for that Christian country, for the no fault divorce or abortions or whatever.
We don't see really that much here in Asia about America in general. Like if Trump says something that's controversial, we'll see it, or if we see like the attacks on Iran, sure, we'll see it. But when it comes to the culture, people kind of already know how America is.
Hmm.
America, like my wife's been to America. She called it the Las Vegas of the world, right? Like you go to Las Vegas, and my wife has flat out said, and I'm just going to use a little bit of language here, but it applies. And she says, and I quote,
Yeah.
quote, American women are the sluttiest women on the planet. End
Wow.
quote. Right.
Wow.
And she's a Mongolian, and that's kind of like, you go to America, you party, you drink, you do drugs, you hook up and whatever. And then, that's why America statistically globally is the number one for like trafficking, right? Because of all that freedom. Now, yes, other countries have trafficking and that's fine, but America's number one.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of people go to America. Where do they go? They go to New York, they go to Hollywood, they go to Las Vegas, top 3. My wife was trying to get her B2 visa. Every single person, there was a line out the door. Every single person. New York, Hollywood, Las Vegas.
Wow.
Wonder why they're going to those 3 locations specifically and nowhere else.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of them were married men, from what my wife was saying.
Oh,
right.
gosh. Wow.
So, so it's not so much that like America's a Christian nation and allows it. It's more of America's just kind of like a party place is what I'm seeing. And that's why a lot of young people in Asia want to go there, because like society here is rigid. And while there are good things, good aspects to the society, I would say that in many cases it can be taken to an extreme. For instance, you look at India, arranged marriage. I'm sure you all have heard of cases of people in India who they fell in love outside their caste and their families want to kill them. Right. So that's like an extreme, right? And that's why many people go to like America, because they can love who they want to love, right?
Right.
So, I mean, it's kind of like a double-edged sword anywhere you go. There's no perfect country. Um, and I mean, people, there's good things about America that people want to go see. People want to go see the Statue of Liberty, and not all people want to get drunk and like, sleep with Hollywood stars. They love Hollywood. They love, the Fast and the Furious. They love Saving Private Ryan. They love those American movies, and they want to go to Hollywood to see where it was made, right? That's normal, right? They want to go to Mount Rushmore too. Some of them want to go to Mount Rushmore. That's fine. But yeah, we don't really see that much about America just because like people have their own lives, and whether people in America want to admit it or not, like Trump's tariffs and many things don't impact other countries as much as Americans want to think they do, right? I've got into some debates with people on like, oh, Trump is going to outpace like, Trump is doing tariffs on China for rare earth minerals, and he's going to like make good AI, and you're in Asia, you're suffering because of it. And I'm like, dude, my digital ID on my phone is tied to AI. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you talking about? Like, we're already ahead of that.
Now, I'll throw in a question about AI then. So with the propaganda from Hollywood, and I love that because, they before, I don't know, Emmys, Grammys, you have the red carpet and the world thinks they're, oh, look at all that great stuff. They have to power wash for 2 weeks the pee and the poop human off the streets around the event. And so do you think AI then will be able to generate then more truth potentially?
Well, here's the thing, and that's an interesting question. Generate truth, but you referenced Hollywood. Hollywood is not about truth. Hollywood is about entertainment.
Correct.
Do I believe AI can generate? I'll tackle this question from 2 points. Do I believe AI will create more entertainment in the United States? Yes, because if you look at Japan or China or South Korea, they have multi-million-dollar drone shows. They have holograms the size of skyscrapers, right? But do I believe it can generate more truth? My response is going to be based on how you were defining truth. Are you talking about Christian truth?
Oh, thank you.
Are you talking about historical truth?
Reality.
Or are you talking about consistent entertainment? What are we
reality talking about? That, I know my wife's family from Philippines, and Philippines actually think Hollywood, what they put out is reality, truth, reality. And so I know I used to work for a place, and they had a lot of big people, and back in the day when Jennifer Aniston, I think she's probably top still in there, but it was in her prime, and I met her boyfriend at the time, who was he was a model out of surfing world in LA, Southern California, and made a couple movies. And so, he they didn't last long, but you think, and then so many of the other stars that, they have no commitment to a family life. A lot of them, some do. I mean, but that whole thing that they like in Asia and Philippines part is like, wow, that they think what's going on in Hollywood is true, is reality. And that's what I mean.
Okay. So, all right. So I can answer that. Do I think AI, to answer your question word for word, do I think AI can generate more truth? No, because truth is not generated. Truth is reflected, right? To Bruce Wayne's point, Jesus is truth. So let's add that here. Let's add that prompt to the AI that is my brain right now, because I'm a total bot when it comes to Christianity. Okay?
Yes. So
will AI generate more truth about Jesus? No, because if Jesus is true, you cannot generate what already exists. It can only be reflected.
Yeah.
Do I think AI will reflect the truth of Jesus? No, because there's no profit in it.
That was good. But we'll get off of Bruce in the comments and back to our Bruce here.
No, for sure. The other Bruce. They're two Bruces. Okay, they're two Bruces. But I mean, Bruce seems to be enjoying this too. But I mean, like this goes along with the topic of AI. And
Yeah.
I'll wrap up this point and see what Bruce has to say, because my personal opinion and just use of AI, of how I use it and how it's coded, is that AI cannot generate things. It just reflects what data points are in its system. And when there aren't data points, it hallucinates and does weird and bizarre things, right? So will it reflect truth? Probably not. Will it reflect, like what Bruce was saying? Will it reflect Jesus? No, because there's no prophet in it, right? And AI, at the end of the day, it is a useful tool. Keyword is tool, but we are paying, or at least I'm paying to use it. There are free versions, but if you pay for it, you get more stuff. You get better usage of it, right? So AI is not going to reflect something that goes against AI. It's just like the Facebook or YouTube algorithms. YouTube wants you to stay on YouTube so it can serve you.
Right.
If your YouTube channel is anti-YouTube, it will not promote you at all.
Yeah. One thing I would add, I like that idea of reflect. It reflects truth. It can only reflect what it is absorbing from the internet, from the things that it processes. And that's that's dependent on what the trainers expose the chatbot's brain, basic brain to all, and they have a say in that. The company owners have a say in that. Right now, up to now, they seem to be doing a pretty good job of, trying to stay sort of giving everybody a voice, so to speak, to kind of hear whatever perspective they want to hear. Like, for instance, if I tell GPT that I want a conservative Christian specific perspective on your answer, and I want it to list your sources, and I ask it some Bible-based question, it will faithfully, as far as I can tell, stay within those bounds. So it's kind of depending on, you've got to want the truth reflected to you as you want that truth bounded. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so somebody who thinks Hollywood is just the ultimate in the universe will not be able to see. It'll just reflect pretty well what they already think. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
It will.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think Hollywood reflects what it thinks people want to see and hear.
Because people pay for it. I would say, in my opinion, it's a fair statement, because like AI, Hollywood is supply and demand, right? Why does Hollywood put out so much like pornographic material? Well, because people are paying really good money and demanding pornographic material. And that's why they're making stupid amounts of money, right? Now, to your point, in the Philippines and Asia, right? Because there are people in Mongolia, and I know I have followers in the Philippines. Like, I stream Minecraft on Facebook, and Apex Legends. I have a lot of followers. They see, they are very poor. You know this, you also know that I, as a white man who has wealth, right? Me and my family, we make 6 figures a year in US dollars. I could go to the Philippines with my wife and find a second wife. I've even seen articles on that, and there have been people on my page who are talking about that, because very poor areas, like, people need to survive, right? And women do look for men of wealth, and typically that's Westerners, right? And I think part of that mentality is just the poverty mentality, where they see anything that, like Hollywood, for instance, and they see the wealth, the glamour, and the glitz, and it's not a lie, because it's there. You live in Hollywood, you have to have money, right? You go outside of Hollywood, and I've been to San Francisco, I've been throughout California, I've seen Hollywood myself, right? So even if you were to Google pictures of Hollywood, multi-million-dollar homes, fancy people, fancy cafes, excuse me, you see all these things. A person in the Philippines or a poor person in Mongolia who is struggling to survive will see that and say, there must be truth to Hollywood because of what it brings. It's there. And to some extent, not complete, I'm not talking spiritual, but from a physical perspective, from a material financial perspective, they are not wrong. Because as what me and Bruce are talking about, they're not wrong in that seeing that there's truth there, because Hollywood puts out movies. People pay for those movies and everyone gets rich and they want to be a part of it. There is truth in that principle of supply and demand.
Yep. That's right.
But I think that's where it gets back to the caution that some Christians have. It's like the
for sure.
AI is of the devil. But again, there are Christians that fall into the, oh wow, what did the latest star say about this, or this and so that's even the Christian community. So
what did Joel Osteen preach about today is a good example, right? Because Christians will do that. It's not what the favorite star is, it's what their favorite pastor says on Facebook.
No, but there are ones that will talk about, it's like, what did they say? What did the
really? I haven't seen that. Okay.
And so but to me, I would say that's not a very strong Christian. But again, on the AI and talking about, the people in Christianity that are fearful of it, there is, I think AI right now is just a neutral. And I don't know if Dave, you think the same thing, but brought up the comparison of guns.
Yeah, loaded gun.
AI could, can be used for good. It can eventually be used for bad.
Yep.
I think it depends. So I think it depends, because I do know countries like actually have restrictions on different websites, right?
Yeah.
And that's like physical servers and what they can and can't do. But I do see AI as a tool. And something I don't get, and both of you are Christians, so maybe you can explain this to me. I see a lot of Christians who are terrified of AI and of data centers because it's going to bring Agenda 2030. It's going to bring the Antichrist. It's going to bring the New World Order, right?
Yeah.
But from my understanding, that needs to happen before Jesus comes back. So what's the freaking problem? That just proves you're right. That just proves you go to heaven. Why are you scared? You win in the
That's
end.
a great
What's
point.
the problem here?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bruce. You can.
Well, let me see. I've thought about this somewhat. I resonate with what you're saying, David, because on the one hand, it's sort of like, come back, Jesus. Come back now. I want you back today. And we know that things have to get worse before you come back. And so let's get things worse. Let's let it happen. Let's AI, come on, bring it on. I mean, that's kind of the sense. The other side of the coin is that if we take the standpoint that we do not know the time, the day, the year, or the eon when Jesus is really going to come back, that's really up to him. What are we supposed to be doing in the meantime? And my understanding is that we are supposed to devote our time to being a good witness to other people of our faith and the benefits of it. And to do that, to bring as many people as we can who are alive into this kind of a realm of salvation, so to speak, as we see it.
Gotcha,
and so that's kind of the logic, is that if we spend time saying, man, forget all that. I just want things to get as bad as I can, as quick as I can, so Jesus can come back and we're all done with this crap. it's not quite, I don't know, it's not quite the best attitude for us to be motivated, to kind
I
of have
guess that makes sense, but I'm that makes sense. I'm adjusting the
yeah,
more fear side because the Bible says multiple
yeah,
times, "Do not be afraid."
it does.
And
Oh,
my
it does.
perspective, and my
Yeah,
perspective is, and I'm literally in Facebook groups where there are a lot of Christians who are afraid of like the AI face cams that are
yeah,
coming up in America, and like this bothers me. This bothers me because I'm seeing people in America like, oh my God, the government's going to have AI face cams and monitor where
yeah,
we
yeah,
drive.
yeah.
And I'm just sitting there like, I watched 2 hours ago a video of a woman in Nigeria being dismembered and set on fire for
Ooh,
believing in Jesus. And you're scared of a camera? Shut up.
yeah, I know. I know.
Like, I mean, that's just my personal thing.
I
Like,
know.
I don't get it. Like, there are Christians in Nigeria and other countries who have the worst heinous atrocities committed upon them, and they still will not deny Jesus Christ. But
Yeah,
Christians in America are scared about AI and cameras. I think they should just shut up, in my
I
opinion.
I
do.
think
I agree with you. I think they're spoiled, and they're not willing to kind of exert the energy to think through in terms of pros and cons and things being not a big conspiracy, but
Someone
you
clip that, by the way, and make it into a short and post it. I want it to go viral. I don't even care. But no,
yeah,
I'm sorry to cut you off. Please
no,
continue.
that's right. That's right. That's
and
right.
yeah, and I'm kind of reflecting that because the all of it, and I don't know about again around the world, but in the United States, it is such kind of like a bully mentality. Do what I
Mhm.
say when I say, and if you don't like that, I'll tell you it's because the Bible says it, so you better believe it because that's what I say the Bible interpretation is. It is a way, and I think it's pretty well worldwide and human beings. You look back in history, I'm sure, and oh, good, this is one I can ask and see if it's true. I heard that Genghis Khan used the religion. He goes, okay, if your God is true, you can defeat me. And if your God is not strong enough, you're mine. And I think
Mm,
that's kind of a thing.
Well, it was more than that. It was much more than that because Genghis Khan actually allowed freedom of religion, right? Because there were many like people groups and tribes that actually joined him. And basically, what he allowed was, hey, you can keep your culture and religion. You just fight for us, and you you put the Mongolian flag here, and we'll help you defeat this bigger tribe that's giving you a hard time. And a
Okay.
lot of people were just like, oh, okay, and then they kept their religion. They threw up the Mongolian flag, at the time. They fought for Chinggis Khan, and then Chinggis Khan kept his word and went and like smashed and pillaged the other tribes and forced
mhm.
them to integrate. And then he moved on, right?
Yeah, no, so
So
that's
it wasn't.
the ones that did resist him, because he did other things with, I believe, and it's true or not, of the thing with respect of people's wives that
Mhm.
at the time they were stealing and all that kind of stuff. But my thing too, though, the major point is that people have a history of whether it's Eastern cultures, whether it's the quote Christian, you believe in Jesus or I'm cutting your head off. Muslim cult, the most Muslim religion. Anyway, I mean, anyway, whether it's World War II, you follow us or we're going to cut. It's pretty much of a bully place. In the United States, it's kind of, and I see maybe is that why you're saying it, because we're so much, oh, the Bible, got to believe in the Bible, you got to trust in God, and then by the way, be afraid of AI. It
Mm,
does not make sense. And I told Bruce earlier that some of this stuff, and maybe you're just saying that, is I'm saying Christians, stop looking like idiots.
mm.
You are. Go
You
ahead.
That's
know,
kind of my biggest thing. And I was actually on the other podcast I was on before I jumped over here. Like, there was a Christian guy doing a hit piece and just calling her a liar and like a bunch of stuff. And she's just sharing her experience of why she went to Unitarianism, like things she saw people she talked to, right? And, you know, there's actually one guy in the chat who called me a liar because I shared my experiences of how I see Christians teach each other. He's like, oh yeah, he's making stuff up. Other religions do this too. I'm like, okay, well, I legitimately haven't seen this. But you know, that's kind of the point. It's like, just don't be stupid.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the same thing with like going back to the AI thing. It's like people in America are afraid of AI, and, you know, Christians are afraid of like Agenda 2030, the New World Order. It's like, do you see the videos of what's happening to Christians in other countries, and you're scared about something?
Yeah.
It's not even 2030 yet, and you're terrified. Like, shut up.
Well, let me throw a couple of thoughts in on this one. First of all, I think there is a little bit of a thing that people think about, like in terms of communist China. You know, with their DeepSeek program. Well, and David, you might be more familiar with that because I think
I've been to China several times. I've considered moving to China, actually. Yeah, I could.
Oh, really? Okay. But the feeling,
yep.
At least what we have gotten the impression of, is that the Communist Party uses that as its kind of controlling agent, so to speak, and that if AI becomes more and more part of the Chinese ability and thing, so to speak, that it will become more and more an agent for the Communist Party. And so people use that as sort of a model of what could happen in the US, you know, of a certain group of people get into power, and it's not the people we necessarily want it to be. So,
well, my response to that is America does the exact same thing. I had to pull this up because I forgot the name, but PRISM is a clandestine mass surveillance program leaked in 2013 by Edward Snowden, where the NSA uses Facebook and Instagram as well as Snapchat to do the exact same thing that you're talking about, right? So
you mean that? But who's controlling that in effect?
The U.S. government, right?
As the government.
The government. Yeah, it's the NSA, the National Security Agency, right? And so, and so I could send you info on this, but I just Googled it quick.
That's possible, yeah.
But my point is, and this is kind of the joke that because before I went into accounting and finance, I was network security, cybersecurity double major, right? And like some of the jokes me and my friends have, it's like, okay, well, if it's not the Chinese, it's the US government, right? So it's like, who do you want to steal your data and monitor you? Because there's no literal difference whatsoever.
Okay.
I would argue I prefer the Chinese government because A, it's out in the open. It's not a secret. It didn't need to be leaked by Edward Snowden. B, we know what the CCP is going to do. We know what they're capable of. They're pretty stable and they're pretty consistent throughout human history of how they operate, right? Whereas in America, there are so many mass surveillance programs we're now just finding out about through Trump declassifying documents that are CIA and FBI. We're all just learning about this now, and there's more they're not releasing. And with America, it's kind of hard to gauge what America is going to do because that all depends on the elections every 4 years, right? You know what I mean? So it's gonna, left and right. It's a bit more unstable. For me personally, it's like I prefer stability, and if like we're going to be monitored either way, well, at least I know what China's going to do. I don't know what America's going to do. I mean, that could. I mean, JD Vance could be elected for after Trump, and then hey, we have 4 more years of the same that impacts me as an expat. Or Gavin Newsom runs and gets elected, and then the pendulum shifts a completely other way, and it's completely different. So I don't know what America's going to do, but I know what China's going to do.
Yeah. So like that's interesting. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to point out was more at the Christian personal level. I know that some of my loved ones have expressed concern about using AI for Bible study. And Dan, this was what I was going to get in with my third segment. And obviously, we're going to have to wait for another day to do that.
Cliffhanger. We're almost 3 hours. Cliffhanger.
Yeah.
3 hours.
Yeah, we'll do that another time. But however, let me just say that part of their concern is that with the challenges of AI not having, being able to make mistakes, hallucinating on sources, things like that, and people having tendencies to over rely on its correctness and everything. So there's some folks that say, don't use it for Bible study unless it's for very specifically for just looking up a specific historical facts. Don't ask it for opinions, in other words,
Yeah.
as to what a passage means. Just use it. It's okay to have it collect commentator opinions, but don't you, ChatGPT, give me your opinion, because your opinion is going to be, possibly contaminated by your trainers, by whatever the political climate is. And I've seen that happen on the free version of ChatGPT, because I've actually tested it out.
Mhm.
If you, and Stephen and I were talking about this earlier, if you create a tailored GPT, which you can do, you can create a tailored version of GPT, like you put your church doctrine in it and all this stuff. I don't know if you're aware of that, David, but you can do that. And it really
Yep.
will balance itself to give you answers within the framework of what you want, and it won't go outside that. So, but most people aren't aware of that. And so I'd like to see, you could imagine in the future churches getting their own chatbot. Each church has their own doctrinally correct chatbot for their congregation. I mean, I can see that coming in the future.
I can see that because there's already a company that lets you chat with Jesus as AI, and I don't know how
aware
to
of that.
feel about that, because it's like
Yeah.
AI can hallucinate and things like
Yes.
that. But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we do know about that. I mean, my wife and I, like a lot of people here, it's pretty common to have like, there's like what I was asking you about earlier is like AI agents within ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
So it's like a profile or a
Yes.
data preset
Yes.
where it's all already tailored to search in a
Yes.
particular
Exactly.
way.
Exactly.
And I have some of those. So I've got one data preset I select when I have questions on Mongolian, like the difference
Yeah.
between US and Mongolian law. I have another preset where it's like, hey, I need some good gaming hashtags. Send it, right? And so
Yeah.
it's like pre-designed and predetermined, and you can just kind of cycle through them.
Yeah. That's those things are out there. I don't know that everybody's aware of them, but in the future, I think you're going to find more of that happening.
No, and that's why I wanted you to come on, because I did miss your class at church on this, but
Yeah.
it is. I will just, the common whatever Google is like, I know a lot of verses, not where they are. So it's like, boop, Bible verse.
Yeah.
Like, where does it say this? And because when I'm doing teaching or even talking to Christians or non-Christians, I want to get it right. That's why Bruce Wayne in the comments, that is why we do have Dave Hindu on our channel, because we test, and what he steelmans us and then gives us opinions. He's kind of like our Chat GPT guy.
Show Bruce, Stephen made something for when I give because I do try and steal man, but also when I give opinions that are different, that are not Christian. Do you have access to the disclaimer that Stephen made? Do you have access to that?
I probably do, but I'm not going to be able to find it. But he put one.
It's an image. Yeah, he made an image that he throws up now. It's hilarious. I love it. He made it with ChatGPT.
I will look at it. Yes, because as Dave knows, and most people, I think Bruce Wayne, that's his name, is that we want people that are going to engage truth as defined as Dave here probably steelmans our arguments better than we do sometimes. Mm-hmm. And then he will throw back the out of the
counter argument.
Counter arguments, and that's what because unlike other Christians, and I can point at Bruce because he's here in the chat, Bruce Wayne.
No, he's not.
Oh, did he leave?
No, he's not. No, I banned him because he called me trash. He said take out the trash because I said I prefer the government, Chinese government to the U.S. government. So he said take out the trash. So I tagged him, said okay, and then I banned him. So
bye. And thank you, because there again, as a confessing Christian, we are to engage with other people, as Dave will testify. Yet we stand on Proverbs, guys, on Jesus Christ and him crucified, but we're not afraid of Dave's opinion, and we welcome his to test when we say something in the echo chamber, Dave, and that's why Stephen gave him the best, or what is it, the best moderator on our channel last month, because he will stick with the truth. He's not going to, like Bruce Wayne in the comments, he will attack people. He will, it's just not a very Christ-like thing to do. And then we gave Dave the right to ban people they're nice, and Dave would ban another Hindu or somebody else if they came on being stupid. Just happens we have our Bruce Wayne, and so anyway, that's what
I've actually given Bruce a lot of leeway because I've been a mod for a while, but only was it now that I just banned him. If it was another Hindu saying that, he would have been smoked his first time here, or like anybody else. The only reason why I gave Bruce leeway is because like you guys know him, right? So I'm like, all right, like there's a connection here, and then I'm like, all right, he's consistently weird.
I have only banned one person, and I didn't even do it because I didn't know even how to do it. I said, Stephen, that was funny. They made a funny short because, Bruce, he's confessing Christian, but, very baby-like in his Christianity, if it's true. And
I just want to say this too, because to go off the point, sorry to jump in, but to the point of like him being a confessing Christian, I can tell you right now, that attitude, because there are many people in Mongolia that prefer the Chinese government to the U.S. government. There's a lot of people in Asia, and I mean the Philippines likes America. They do because of the history. But there's a lot of young people that you've seen that also like China, right? Now, because it's no country's a monolith. You're going to get a mixed bag of everybody, right? I can promise you this. Because Christians are already looked down on in Mongolia, many people who convert leave. Christianity is less than 3% of the population. If Bruce were to come here and act like that, that would be grounds for the government to make Christianity illegal. I can promise you that right now. And I would be supporting it.
Yeah, and that's why another point back to the comment you made, Dave, about Christians being fearing Christians. That's a lot of it right there, is that attitude of you're going to hell, it turns off other
Why are you afraid of the Chinese government if Jesus is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords? Why are you scared of the Chinese communists?
Like, and I think we got into that we got into that Bruce with our study, I think before, maybe that was another one, that the governments, according to Christianity, are there to protect the people or put judgment upon people who are, pretend Christianity.
I think, that's all true. Dave, I think the only thing that I would say about that is that it doesn't seem to me, at least my impression is, that the Chinese government permits Christianity to be freely professed over there. I know they do have a certain level of tolerance for a certain watered down version, but they don't allow the like what I would call us evangelical Christians to have a free play over there. And that's what I would say a huge objection would be to wanting to live in China.
Well, yeah, and I completely understand that, and I mean, like the reason why Bruce was giving me a hard time is like I
Yeah,
moved
yeah,
to Mongolia, right? And I mean, Mongolia has issues, China has issues. For
yeah.
me, the reason why I prefer the CCP to the U.S. government. Say what you want about China. Does China have problems? Yes. Does Mongolia have problems? Yes. We don't have naked men in the streets humping each other in front of children. We don't
Mm,
have mass school shootings.
yeah.
We don't have like, people running. We don't have like politicians having gay affairs on heroin that have been coming out in the news.
Mhm,
We don't have pastors being caught with, young underage male prostitutes.
mhm.
I can pull links on that. We don't have these things, right? Violent crime is very low here. And for me personally, I understand in Christianity, like freedom of choice and like agency, like the free will
Yeah.
is a big thing. I am willing to give that up in
Mm,
order to have a safer environment to have a family. And if you
mm,
want to call me trash for that, that's fine. The difference between me and the other Bruce is I'm married, he's not.
mm, mm.
So I don't care what he says, right?
Interesting.
And if you look at younger men my age, if you go and you just look at even younger Christian men, they're not staying in America. They're going to Asia. I've seen some of them going to Africa. They're getting involved with the churches. They're leaving to Asia predominantly.
Mm,
Why? Culturally conservative,
mm.
politically
That's
conservative,
true.
a very, very strong emphasis on law and order,
Yeah.
a very strong emphasis on family. These four things are why even young Christian men and passport bros, if you want to call them that, that's why they're going overseas to find a family.
Yeah.
Those four reasons.
Yeah.
So I'm not an anomaly. I'm not the only one. And
I'm
you
sure
can
you're
even
not.
see there are young men um, everywhere, that are just going that route.
Yeah. And I can easily see why that would be the case. I think again, for evangelical Christians, Jesus is everything. And the
Yep.
ability, even more than family, even more than,
Mhm.
I mean, if we are embracing it the right way, so to speak, that if we don't have the ability to profess, discuss,
Mhm.
witness, do all these things in a kind of a free and flowing environment, then that feels like the wrong thing. Now, I will say, with regards to the other things that you mentioned, if you were to get, how would I put this? If you were to get some of the evangelical Christian leaders in the true power positions in government,
Mhm.
and really gave them the power, they would make society exactly like you're saying. Plus, they would have the Christian outlook. You know what I'm saying? So, unfortunately, if they were to give them that power, I know they would screw it up. Number one, because nobody's perfect. But my only point being is that I think that uh, evangelical Christians look at China as not permitting them to freely express, witness, do the things that they feel they're called to do, and that's
Mhm.
the hard part. So,
I'm going to make a counter argument from the Bible.
okay,
Because if you look at the Apostle Paul, he spoke to
yeah,
the Jews in one way, but he spoke to the others, to Romans in a fundamentally different way and honored
yeah,
Roman culture.
yeah,
In Chinese culture, what Americans do just naturally is like weird, right?
mm,
So to freely profess and hold signs like people do outside of abortion clinics and scream at
yeah,
people on the streets or street preachers, I've encountered this. That goes against social harmony, which is big in
yeah.
Asian
That's
cultures in
true.
general.
Yeah,
Right. Now, what China does allow is if you know someone in the privacy of your own home,
yeah,
you can have these discussions. Same here with
yeah,
Mongolia. As
yeah,
a foreigner and even as a Mongolian citizen, you can't have a sign and scream at people on the street because you're creating a civil disturbance. That's illegal.
yeah. That's
But
true.
if you're in the comfort of your own home or you're in a cafe, you would like to have an amiable religious discussion, that's completely allowed. That
Hmm.
is not
Okay.
that's not illegal in China. I mean, they're approximately 9 to 10% of the Chinese citizens are Christians, and there are American missionaries who do go to China.
That
They
is
go
true.
there, they spend a few years, and they leave. Why is
Yeah.
that? They follow the law. They get
Yeah.
the appropriate visa, which if you want to come and freely express like you do in America. In Mongolia, you have to get a specific visa. It's a religious visa. If you don't have that, it's illegal. If you
Yeah.
do have that, you still have rules and regulations, but you
Yeah.
are allowed to do this. So get the correct visa, follow the permits, just obey the law, because the Apostle Paul himself obeyed Roman law in Rome. Even though he was professing Christ, he just had to
Yeah.
go about it in a different way. I would argue that Christians are obligated to do this.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dave. I think actually I went on a short-term mission trip to China, Peking, in 2007 with our evangelical church, and we were there for 2 weeks, or for about a week and a half. The guy that was running our little 3, 4, 5 person team was from China, who had big business guy, vice president of Oracle or something like that in America, but he still had roots in China, and he went back and forth. And he was taking a pastoral team, including myself. We went to Peking, and he had this little house church that they were running at the top of this big skyscraper. And it was meeting, once every so often. And we were there to kind of just give them an encouragement, blah, 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 and all that. But I remember we had to they were always looking down at the cameras to see if they were being, kind of discovered on the first floor by the security agents, which basically the message we were getting was, I had heard that before, that, you can do things privately, but if you do things in a community kind of way, that's kind of,
you have to get permits there.
Yeah.
And it does depend.
Right.
It does depend on province.
Right.
I actually know a couple Christians in Shenzhen, right? Shenzhen, Chongqing, and Guangzou. They're a little bit more lenient than like Xinjiang and other locations, right? So it's like the U.S. There's going to be different laws.
Yeah.
But as long as you get the permits, you're fine. There's no problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I get you. Yeah.
So
well, that's a very interesting
insight. Yeah. That's just my counter argument. And I mean, I get it, that's still the nature, and the culture might rub people the wrong way, but you also have to keep in mind, and I would say you understand this because you've been to Peking, but many other Christians don't, is that like Christianity is antithetical to Chinese culture, to Mongolian culture, to Indian culture, to other cultures in general.
Yeah.
And many people, just like Americans, America is a Christian history, and American Christians want to preserve that cultural history. Yeah. The Chinese have the right to do the exact same thing. People here in Mongolia, they have the right to do the exact same thing. So you have to follow the law, or you will deal with the consequences. And Bruce is in a private chat talking about China's dark history in the 1980s. I can make a counter argument to that right now with Tiananmen Square. Living in Minneapolis, Minnesota, I saw the George Floyd riots. Cool. I'm going to say the exact same thing to him that conservatives said then. Why aren't the protesters at work? Why aren't the protesters providing for their families? Why aren't the protesters obeying the law? If you obey the law, you wouldn't have been killed. Just like George Floyd. Had George Floyd been obeying the law, he wouldn't have died. That's my counter argument. They deserved it. They did not follow the law. They put themselves in that situation. We may not agree on this, but they put themselves in the situation. They engaged in actions that have consequences, which I would argue are no different than the George Floyd protesters, who were also breaking the law and also face consequences.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I know now I must find that thing of Stevens to put up the disclaimer. But no,
I'm pretty sure. I think I gave a little disclaimer, but the preceding views are my views alone, and are not necessarily the views of Proverbs Guys Ministries, their subsidiaries and or affiliates. There you go.
Yes, and so, but biblically though, God is the one that puts up the government. God put up Caesar. God put up the Assyrian king that actually dealt harshly with his people, God's people, because they were, like you're just saying, Dave, they weren't following God's laws. And so on that respect, same thing in society. The Chinese government is set up by God to teach their people something. And so the United States feel like, oh, we were a Christian country. And we have a show Monday nights. Bruce, I'll send you the link. John, our friend, is giving us the Christian citizenship talk, telling us why, as Christians, we should follow, and actually not just follow, but join in the U.S. politics, because we have that chance to voice our opinions on abortion, on sanctity of life, on sanctity of how God created male and female. And so we had a real interesting talk on Monday, and I think we have another one coming up here Monday too, Bruce. So on that, with those kind of things, do you see AI being able to influence, say, like people on abortion? Right now it's swinging back to like, whoa, we better think about this, especially because we have the pro-abortion people now going, and some of the leadership and the mouthpieces are bragging about how many, before, when it first got changed, you could have, it was supposed to be safe and legal, rare, safe and legal, the abortion was. And now it's like, I'm proud I've had 3 of them. I've killed 3 of my unborn clumps of cells.
That's kind of wild that it's celebrated in America too, because abortion is, and I mean, your wife is Filipino, and I mean, you've been to the Philippines. Abortion is very common. The difference is it's done behind closed doors. It's very quiet. Nobody talks about it, right? It's not flaunted. It's not like bragged about. I've seen women in like America bragging about, yeah, I've had 4 abortions, and I'm like, what? Like, I mean, that happens here in Asia, but the difference is like, if a woman has multiple abortions or even any abortions, you're not going to hear about it, like, at all. Right? That's not something that's like, I don't know, like, pride comes from accomplishment. How is that an accomplishment?
Exactly.
What have you achieved?
And I know even people raised in Christianity and then have because they might not be living or even believe in Christianity, but they do believe in the sanctity of life. And I heard one, quoted saying that is like, well, I could have just quietly had an abortion. I could have killed the baby and you would have never known I was not acting, I was doing outside marital relations. So a lot, it's the whole dynamic. There's so many dynamics. And again, with that, and I think that's why United States has had, in my opinion, some real poor government officials. It's because God gives you what you deserve. And when, like you were saying, Dave, and I hope, the other part of the world is not saying, oh, America's a Christian nation, because it's not. And we look at it, though, is that, the Christian, and it was funny. I don't know if you were much in the South, Dave, but I'm California pretty well, one of those little
3 years in Coosa, Georgia, 30 minutes north of Rome, near the Alabama line.
Okay, so then, because I went, to Florida and Alabama just 1 time, 2 times Florida, but Alabama, and the whole thing, a church on every corner. It was crazy. It's like
next to a liquor store, no less. By the way, I was invited to church in the Bible Belt. I went a few times, and what did everyone do? I mean, it's a bunch of country boys and their wives, and the women would stand outside and talk with the babies. And guess what? All of us men would literally go next door to the liquor store and buy a bunch of Jack Daniels. Right, all of us. The pastor was there too, and we're like, "Hey, where's the Jack Daniels? Where's the Hennessy?" We're like passing around bottles, and we buy it, and then we go outside, and the men would collect their wives and leave.
And they wonder why we get a government that is going against morals, when you who are confessing to be a follower of Jesus Christ is doing that kind of stuff. And again, just having so many churches, why are you dividing? Oh, well, we didn't like the lights they had on that church, or and one seriously, there was one because they wanted to change from the light bulb to the fluorescent tubes. They had a church split over that. And so we deserve, as Christians, as the Christian community, we deserve what we're getting and seeing. And so that's where we're having a talk on. Oh, you talked to John Monday, Dave, talking about Christian citizenship. It's like in America, we do have that unique, and maybe other places, but you are invited to participate and in the school boards, in the local government, state, federal, to change to what you want. But Christians are too busy drinking next to the church. And I know, and here in California, Bruce, luckily it wasn't our church, but the one of the youth kids, he went to another church and he came back, and I really love having a relationship with these kids, that they will be open with me. And one guy was like, "Oh yeah, I go to this other church, which I knew about. Oh yeah, the youth group, and we all go out and smoke marijuana before we go in to the youth group."
Wow.
And like, yeah, guys, God will judge according to Christianity, know.
And this I got to jump in here because I agree 100%. And this is why I don't think Christians can argue against China. Because Christians, and I brought this up on another podcast, America founded on Christianity. There's no dispute. Moving on. The colonies, overwhelmingly Christian. No dispute historically. Good. Moving on. Throughout American history, up until the 40s and 50s, overwhelmingly Christian, Christianity in schools, 10 Commandments, Bible teaching in schools. You cannot argue with me historically, it was there. But in the 60s and 70s, Christians let themselves get pushed out, right? So that's the fault of Christians. I brought that up. Stephen and I and Achilles had a great conversation on that. Now, let's compare China. China, historically, dynastic, warmongering, authoritarian, 5,000, 6,000 years ago. It unifies, builds a great wall of China. To this day, the bodies of slaves are under that wall. And then going throughout China's history of Mao Zedong and others, and now we have the CCP. China's consistent, America is not.
That is a good point, because go ahead, Bruce. You want to?
Well, two things. My battery is running out, so I'm going to have to kind of split here in just about 25 seconds. However, I just want to say, I think part of what the dynamic that's happening there is just the fundamental idea of democracy in action, that, it's messy. And if you go back to days of Andrew Jackson or some of these former presidents, I mean, those guys were having arguments you wouldn't believe, like at the Civil War time. My goodness. I mean, we think we're facing these issues now. I mean, yes, God was maybe more present in people's language and everything then, but they were tearing at each other's throats like unbelievable back then. So it's just, I think it's part of the revolutionary American cultural democratic spirit that we're seeing here. And that's a double-edged sword. That's just all it is.
I mean, I can see that logic. And this is where
wait a minute, Dave, real quick. Bruce, if your computer dies, thanks so much for tonight.
Yeah,
Go
I'm gonna have to leave you guys. I wanted to thank Dave. I really appreciated the conversation and
Thank
a
you,
lot of
Bruce, because
fun.
you've shed a lot of. This was a great convo. Thank you so
Yeah, it was
much.
great. Yeah, and Dan, thank you having me on so much. And if you ever want to do that third segment, which is kind of the power block, let me know. I'll be ready
next
to.
Saturday.
What's
Next
that?
Saturday.
We can do it next Saturday. If
Saturday's
you want.
fun.
Yeah, as long as Dave shows up.
Oh, if you want me to show up, I'll make
I
time.
do. I
next
want you to show
Saturday.
up. Yeah.
All right. So what is today? Today's Sunday.
Today's
Yeah,
Saturday, yeah.
Saturday, same time. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I should
right.
be able to make it.
All right,
we'll
man.
take this spot then. 6 o'clock.
Yeah. Okay.
Pacific Standard Time.
Yeah.
Which is probably like 4 a.m. in Mongolia. But
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I didn't think
Well,
about that.
6. No, it's going to be 8 a.m. here because 6
okay.
a.m. Pacific time is 8 a.m. Eastern
Oh,
time,
well,
and
yeah.
I'm 12 hours
no-
ahead of Eastern time.
There's no excuse, Dave. You should be here. All right.
Yeah.
well, thank
Okay,
you.
man.
You
All
want
right,
to
I'll
pray
see
us
you.
It's
out
good
real-
seeing you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
For
you bet.
having. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, so he's gonna drop. Okay, I'll continue my point. But yeah, and this is where are you still there, Dan?
Let me see. I think he's frozen. Let me that was fun. Oops, wrong direction, wrong button.
Uh-oh, everybody panic.
Hide him. I know Dan's got controls.
No, it's all good. Yeah, and to my point, and this is where Steve and I kind of like disagreed, but a little bit, but overall agree on this point is that I believe Christians have a higher moral standard because you claim to have it, right? So if you claim to have a moral standard, I find it difficult in accepting any excuse of why America was historically Christian and just magically was not, right? And I guess this would be like a counter argument because like again, like Achilles sent me some legal cases that I've been looking at and how like the liberal left kind of like weaponized the justice system to do this, right? But I am of the opinion that Christians in America should not have allowed to weaponize the justice system in the first place. And Christians in America should have been more proactive in responding to the legal cases and responding to the indoctrination, that was showing up. They should have done a better job. And this is just a respectful opinion, right? Because I like you guys and even though I don't agree with your faith, I at least respect it, right? And it's interesting that like if you compare like how Christianity played out in America and where America is today, you will not see that happen in a Muslim country. You will not see that happen in India. You will not see that in like other nations that are secular that squash like all religions, like China, right? You just don't see that. And so it's really kind of interesting and in some ways sad that it's, Christians in America, for whatever reason, yes, democracy is an ongoing thing and it's a double-edged sword. That is a factor. But I also think it's sad that Christians, just in general, I don't know who's in charge of what in America at the time, but somebody dropped the ball somewhere. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think
And it's sliding down ever since.
no, and I think it's I would say novelly predicted in the Bible. I use that on the atheists because they throw out that novel prediction.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I totally forgot that angle. So okay, that makes sense. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, no, because you got that, and it's like, keep, as Christian, Christian channel will give that, is that, you're to keep your eyes on Jesus. If you walk by the Spirit, you won't gratify the lust of the flesh. And so then, but same time, power corrupts, wealth can corrupt, because you're not out working in the fields. So of course, you got time to go to the bar. You got time to do this. If you're working 12 hours a day in a field, helping your family, you don't have that much time. Now, of course, people can be evil anytime, but at the same time, the Christian community was fighting so much, which we would say that's because Paul warned, watch out for those people that say they believe in Jesus Christ, but they're not with us. And that was that's where I need Stephen. He has that quote, they were among us, but they weren't of us. And you see that in these churches. It's like, you know, you the one you mentioned, the I think that was the Crystal Cathedral guy. Oh no, actually you were mentioned the Olstein guy who's the faith pastor who again,
the prosperity gospel.
yes, who tickles the ears, you know, and all that type of stuff. So there was so much fighting, and I think a lot of those, you know, Olstein types that you know, promote more of worldly stuff. So why isn't people going to be elected that think they should, you know, oh wow, God's given me this opportunity to enrich myself. And you know, because we see the corruption in the United States government, not alone in the world, but we're supposed to have checks and balances. We're supposed to, and even the founders and people through is like, yeah, this is a great way, but we don't want a king because we, you know, they can go with the wind from king to king. But yeah, we've let people come on in. I know I'm Northern California, so I'm an hour from San Francisco, so
Nice.
I can head there, and actual warnings back in the day, watch out for the human feces on the ground. And if you see it, you can call this some poor city worker slob who has to go out there and clean up somebody else's poop because we can't, you know, we can't give responsibility to the poor druggie in the street. And now we know through so much stuff that all these billions of dollars, because San Francisco, they know how many homeless people there are, and they know how much money they're getting to help them. And we get more homeless, and it's thousands and thousands of dollars per. It's easy. We get so many billions of dollars for the homeless, and we have this many homeless, and it's thousands of dollars each person, and they're out there. I know my local city, it's the next door, it's the largest city north of San Francisco to the Oregon border, and they're spending, so love our Catholic. I was raised Catholic, so you'll forgive me if I say some negative things about the church I was raised in, but Catholic Charities, they're getting millions of dollars a year to, get this, keep safe. What do they call it? They have a cute little name for it. It's on city property. They have 17 trailers for homeless people. And it's like, wait a minute, millions? We're cutting so much of the government. Now they want a 1% tax hike. It's already 10% sales tax. They want 11% so they can actually pave the streets. Because I had one guy, he was part of the street department I knew, and not there now, but he actually, his job was not repairing streets, not making sure the gutters were clean for the rain. He was a butler for the homeless around the city. He was paid to go.
Well, what you got to do is just have Gavin Newsom bring President Xi Jinping from China back, and he'll clean it up within 12 hours.
Thank you. You can explain that to folks who don't know.
That was a thing. Yeah. He just took out a bunch of water hoses and like just hosed everything down and picked everybody up and like dumped them off on some other city. Right. You could just do that. Right.
Because the government.
Another case for China incidentally came up. China cleaned up San Francisco. Anyway,
it's so funny. Yes.
It's actually kind of sad, but it's not wrong. But yeah, and it's like just to the point of like what you're talking about. It's like, yeah, the Catholics are well known for that. And remember, I am Hindu. Hindus do not like Catholics at all for any reason. There's a lot of persecution of like Christians, but a lot of it's against Catholics and in India because of the history. Right. So trust me, you could talk trash about like, Catholics all you want. I'll be agreeing with you, and I'll probably find you some links on what they're doing now with foreign NGOs. Like, so
Yeah, and that's again, and you were talking earlier about the profit and why doing it with the AI and with Hollywood, it's profit. And that's what we see in another good one. We always knew China, their government officials are million and billionaires. In the United
No.
States, the the business leaders in China, there's billionaires. In the United States, Washington, D.C. used to be the, people's capital. There's out of the 15 richest counties in the United States, most of them are around Washington, D.C. now. There's Marin County in right above San Francisco, used to be in the top 5 of richest counties. It's now 15 or 16 because of around Washington, D.C. That right there tells you there's something dirty. There's some rodents going on, rodent life.
Oh yeah, and I mean it's like I don't know. And again, it's like more of a personal preference thing to me. I mean, because like ultimately, as I mentioned before, every nation has its issues, right? So it's kind of a
Right.
matter of like what you prioritize. Honestly, had I not met my wife, I was thinking about going to the Philippines because I have a lot of followers there, and I used to hang out with some friends. I went to high school with. They were part of a Filipino church in Minnesota, and like the pastor actually took his wife, who's American. He's from Cebu, I think. He's Cebuano,
Cebu,
and
yeah.
yeah, and like he went back there, and I stayed in touch with him on and off until I kind of dropped off the map. But like, had I not met my wife, I was considering going to like either back to India or like Philippines is nice. People are family oriented there. People are friendly, So
Yeah, just according there, I think for you, probably better where you're at. The Philippines is a lot of family, but also a lot of corruption in that exploitation. And it sounds like in Mongolia, you watch the family.
well, I mean, there's still corruption here,
Well,
right?
yeah, but
It's
I
gonna
mean,
look like I think just because of I'm being a white Westerner that has a banking background and has money, I'm fine. All right. And that's I was talking with that pastor, and you could probably shed light on this, but just um, like on average, the average person, like if you want to look at it from a Christian lens, like if I were to say have been a Christian and go to the Philippines and I had money and I worked at Wells Fargo or I transferred to the Wells Fargo in Manila, then I could live a comfortable life.
yes.
Also, I think it's fair to say, based off of what you're saying and what the other pastor told me, being a white man with money, if I wanted to cause trouble, I could easily buy my way out of it.
Yes. Now, then that would be, where you're really good at, the family structure, the
Mhm.
caste system. Yeah, in the Philippines, there's still a lot of that, a lot of the dirty money in the gangs, the government, with
Mhm.
Marcos back in the day, they were they 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 had no controls. So if they liked your house, they would take it. Not on
Mhm.
that might happen still in Mongolia, but
Yeah,
it's
that's not really a thing here because I mean, like, I do follow the Philippines, and it seems like it's gotten better over the years, but it's still it's adopted like less violent corruption, even though it's still there, and it's more like moneyed corruption. Moneyed prisoners have a good life in prison, right? Or like someone like myself who knows international banking, right? As long as I play nice with government officials and like, move money for gangs, I could do pretty well from what I've been told. If I not saying I'm going to, but just hypothetically, right?
no,
Hypothetically, if I'm a banker and I can make, you know, if I can keep government officials and gang money safe, as well as like the average person, I'm going to be taken care of on all levels, is what I was told.
no, it and then yeah, until so it did have the reprieve from that when Duterte was the president.
Oh, I heard about that, and all the policemen turned into hit squads on motorcycles, just mowing everyone down.
Yeah, so that's so even Mongolia has some misinformation. So where I get it is from the family. They're poor, they're actually pretty well off doctors, lawyers, as it goes. With the Torte there, you could walk the streets at night. So they weren't hits. Well, because number one, in the Philippines, unless you're the police, you cannot have guns.
Yep.
And therefore, the people that were getting mowed down by these hit squads were people shooting on the police. And the to me, then that is a good, and I think you'd probably think it's a good thing, is like if the police tells you, okay, stop, and you start shooting at them, and then even under the old Philippine, and now it's starting to get back in there, you can't shoot back at them. No, you got to wait. Okay, wait a minute. The example here was in my wife's, the main city, and the mayor of the city was told, okay, the federal agents are going to come talk to you, because he was the main drug guy. Everybody knew it, and he goes, no, you can't. I'm not going to talk to you. So the government said, okay, we're going to talk to you, and we're going to bring the army. If that's what it takes, we will take the army. And then he got killed. I think the daughter lived as she was, eating paper to get rid of evidence. And it came out, it was evil. No, he was the actual drug dealer lord of this big Philippine city. And the party came in and was like, no. And so the testimony with my wife's family, who aren't political, they're just doctors, lawyers, that thing. We, for the first time, could walk in the streets at night.
That makes sense.
And so for me, it was like, you guys, no, that's what you need. I won't walk in San Francisco alone at night. And that's, what it's supposed to be like this big old great city. It's a den of rats, because they won't arrest them. If you drive to San Francisco, there's a warning. There's actually an online thing. If somebody breaks into your car, don't call the police. There's a form you can fill out, and it was great. I have a friend that works down there, and there was some warnings in the public parking spot, the city parking spot, and it had this cartoon. It was just a shade cartoon. No person. It says lock your cars, keep it in the lit area. They had to take them down because they're saying these cartoons, or the shade, the shadow is black, right? So they're going, just accusing black people. And it was just so they had to put a white guy in a business suit as a thing of warning. And meanwhile,
just to jump in, because I'm going to bounce in a second. It's been great talking, but like my pastor was like, I don't remember if he like owned it or ran it, but he was affiliated with it's like an orphanage, right? There are a lot of orphanages in the Philippines, from what I'm told, right? And he said he's one of the better ones because it's right next to a US Navy base. And I kind of asked him, and I'm just like, I'm kind of curious, because like child trafficking is like, and kidnapping is huge in the Philippines, right? And he said, yeah, it's really tragic. And I'm like, aren't you worried about like traffickers like causing problems at your orphanage? And that's when he explained that it was right next to a Navy base, and like the Filipinos are like the gang members are scared of the US military, and he said they just avoid it altogether. They don't even show up there.
Oh, there's plenty of places, plenty of other places to do that stuff.
Well, yeah, that's true. But he did say, like, he's like ministered to, and there's a couple like Marines and like Navy sailors that would like go to the nearby church, and it's pretty well known that like at least that orphanage specifically, he said that it would be like designated off limits or whatever, because just like the retaliation for like causing problems would be like very, very drastic, and that's not something the gangs want. So I thought that Yeah, I thought that was interesting. It's like the gangs aren't necessarily afraid of the government, but they're like terrified of the U.S. Marines and Navy sailors.
No, they don't. They, they usually are pretty conservative and very family oriented, generally by statistics. So,
Oh,
and
even
then,
the gang members, like the
no,
traffickers.
the military.
Oh, yeah. I
And
was speaking
so,
from the perspective of like the gang members and
oh,
the
exactly.
traffickers.
But on the flip side of that is like they love to fight. That's why they're those guys, the ones that are in a position up there. They love to fight. That's what they do. And so
No,
give them a reason. And
no,
if
exactly.
you're hitting a kid because they're away from their kids. Their kids are
Yeah.
back in the States mostly. And if they see some kid, that's their kid,
No, yeah, and I mean, I'm glad you're here to kind of like verify this because, like, I haven't been to the Philippines, but it was really interesting to me when the pastor was talking about, the U.S. Navy, U.S. Marines right next door, and whatever. And I explicitly remember a couple Marines when they first got here, right? Because or got to the Philippines and they knew about the trafficking and stuff. And he's like, "Hey, if anyone, one of the Marines said to him." He just told the pastor, hey, if anyone goes after the kids, don't call the police. Here's my phone number. I'll get some boys and we'll take care of it. Right. And I'm like, dude, that's insane. Right.
That's awesome. Well, that
So
cold
I'm
note, that
I gotta
cold
bounce.
note that there's actually people that will stand up, and I don't know, I'm a very non-violent person. I'm like, but if you want to see some violence out of me, because I'm not a fighter, so I'll take your eyes out. Hurt a child.
No, I'm kind of the same way.
Hurt a child. I mean, I'll ask for apologies or lenience from the judge, but no, don't touch a kid.
Yeah,
And
no.
and that's should be universal. That should be something on anybody's heart, is that you and I, we're adults, and if
Yep.
we want to like have it out, whatever, be stupid, yeah, let us fight. Don't Your family shouldn't. Well, actually, my family should get involved because I'm old,
No.
but and pull me apart. But you touch a kid or somebody that's disabled or something, no, gloves are off. I don't care what
Yep.
religion they are. I don't care what nationality. I'm gonna.
I'm the same way. I mean, one of the first times I came on here because somebody asked like what because I'm Hindu and someone like was like, what are your thoughts about this Indian guru who, you know, who abused kids? And like I remember one of the first times I was on this podcast, I'm like, execute him, execute his bloodline, just family annihilation. Like everyone was shocked by that, and I'm like, well, he shouldn't have been touching kids, right? Shouldn't be
We
hurting
will get
kids. Like,
we will get into that because I know that's referenced in the Bible, even Babylon.
no,
The guy did naughty and he got killed along with all his family. So one of these shows I do want to get in the foreign, the out of the United States who, it's like, yeah, anyway, get out of here
yeah,
because it's been 3.5
yeah.
hours. That was
It's
fun.
been great. I'm gonna bounce. Thanks for having me on. You have a good one.
Yes, you too. And God bless all. And let's see. I'll try to find, where's my music thing? Oh, Dave's gone. Thank you, everybody. Nobody's here but me, probably, but it was fun. And let's see if I can find this exit right here. Nope, it's over here. I'll just put something on because it's fun. God bless everybody. And thank you to everybody who came along the way. It's down to me and myself, I think, right now. But everybody knows I have the confession. I love Jesus Christ, love God. And if I'm wrong, I'm the happiest little slug, happiest little maggot, because we here at Proverbs Guys do believe that a God of the universe, the creator, loves us individually. Jesus came and died for us. God himself emptied himself and became a man to live in our place. That's just killer cool. So let me see if I can do this right. I think those are all entries. I have some cool music over here. And if you guys have anything, if you see this, come across it, I'm thinking at this point, 3 hours, 38 minutes. If you come across this, I'm thinking God is probably calling you. So do come on by when we're live. And, I'll just do the top one. Here's a music thing. Boom. Get out of here. Oh, I like this one. God's best all. Please check out the creator. See what we got.
In a world of shadows, where the lines are blurred, we're standing on the truth of God's holy word. The battle is raging, the energy